Lights out and away we go. There's 2 riders that come charging down into the corner. Oh my goodness! They're down here in a high side and they're waiting for the traffic. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of rapid racing action in the UK sim racing community's GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And tonight, we take a look back at all the racing action that took place in round 6 of 10 at the one and only Florida State circuit, known and loved as Sebring, or Sebring International Raceway in full. Located on a former Army base airfield site, indeed the Hendricks Army Airfield, as used by the US military in the Second World War to train B-17 pilots, it is a circuit which has reinstated that theme of the airfield and asphalt combined with it to see our drivers take on a rough and rugged racing circuit that puts driver and machine for the ultimate test of strain. With the fact that half the circuit's made up of concrete, many of it being the original concrete slabs which were introduced when the airfield was originally laid, it does mean that this circuit is sharp, it's bumpy, and the transition between asphalt and concrete could not be rougher on our drivers as they make the way around here. Indeed, normally when we do see the 12 hours of Sebring take place in reality, in real life, it precedes the 24 hours of Le Mans, and many would argue that 12 hours of Sebring is a tougher test of endurance for driver and machine compared to the 24 hours of Le Mans, and that's going to say something there. And indeed, our drivers today, whilst they may only be racing around here for an hour, plus also the preceding qualifying session, I can tell you one thing, they'll definitely be feeling it, as every time they go over the bumps, they will be feeling it through the steering wheel and the suspension. But at the same time, will there be shocks galore? Could we see some changes in the scenery at the front of the field in each our 4 drivers' championships and also our team's championship, or will we see a continuation of the status quo across the board? We're going to find out all that today. As we mentioned only moments ago, we're taking a look back at all the racing action today. Indeed, the race that occurred as of what was this fine Sunday, the 29th of October 2023, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Monday, the 30th of October. We do apologise for the fact this isn't quite live, and that's due to a bit of scheduling and conflict, but still, we'll do our utmost here. And in the quarantine booth, you do have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I made sure to avoid any potential spoilers going into this night, so therefore it's completely raw and new to me, and I'll be doing my best to present it to you guys and girls tuning in at home as if it's absolutely raw and brand new to you. And if you haven't seen what's happened with regards to results, we'll turn to you while the drivers who participated in this round of racing. We do ask that you avoid any potential spoilers in the Twitch chat, so that way the guys and girls tuning in at home do not have things spoiled for them. Indeed, I've made every effort to avoid any potential spoilers as well. But still, this broadcast is being brought to you live from circuit side, only available on what is the official Twitch channel of UK Sim Racing. That's at twitch.tv, I should say, /UK Sim Racing. But well, that's enough talking about where the broadcast is being presented, and if you're not following the Twitch channel of UK Sim Racing, we definitely recommend you do so today, so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest racing action, which is being broadcasted on a weekly basis. But let's charge our way into the weekly championship schedule, and as we can see here, we're now into the second half of the season. Today it's Sebring International Raceway, but preceding this we have 5 rounds of racing action. We start off on the 17th of September at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Beginning with a bang in the US of A, the state of Indiana, indeed the Speedway circuit absolutely delivering with its road course there, demonstrating our drivers' absolute prowess for what is multi-class racing, with a 5-way fight at the front of the field for the GTP Pro win, and further down the field we got got to see tactics galore in both the GT3 Pro and GT3 AM classes. And then round number 2, we made our way to Japan across the Pacific Ocean for the one and only Fuji International Speedway, and then the foothills of Mount Fuji on the 24th of September. We got to see plenty of battling once again, and also that long start finish straight really proving to be the difference between some drivers in terms of battling under braking after using the slipstreams to their advantage. But from the highly technical Japanese circuit, we then made our way to Belgium on the 1st of October for round number 3. And I was at the circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, where one driver stood tall compared to everybody else. It was none other than Effect Simulations' Paul Busby, who in the number 420 car absolutely dominated at the front of the field. Left everybody with mouths wide open, gawping. It was a phenomenal performance from himself. And further down the field, we got to see the continued rivalry in the GT3 Pro class of the likes of Heroldus Jotatus and Aaron Vagawe. Then we had our mid-season break week, the first of 2 mid-season break weeks before returning for round number 4 on the 15th of October. And that was our second visit to US of A, and none other than the mecca of road racing in the US of A in the state of New York, known as Watkins Glen International. And the Schuyler County circuit, they're absolutely delivering with its heavily cambered corners, and we got to see plenty of battling and thrills and spills from start to finish. And last time out, we made our way to France, and on a very appropriate circuit for multi-class racing. We know and all love it, but 9 in 4 was the circuit to the 24 Hours du Mans, known more colloquially as the Le Mans circuit. And on the 22nd of October, my goodness, did we have a treat for you up and down the field. We saw in the GTP Pro class the battle between the Effect Simulations and the Effect Simulations Club Sport drivers of what's Paul Busby and also Andrew Dawson. Dawson making his debut in the championship and taking the fight to Busby all the way to checker flag, but it was Busby who managed to make it 2 wins in the GTP Pro class this season. Meanwhile, in the GTP AM class, we got to see Porsche deliver at the front of the field in the capable hands of Salvatore Guariento, indeed making up for the disappointment of Porsche in the 963 in reality earlier this year, with it being the 75th anniversary of Porsche Motorsport and the 100th centenary of what was the 24-hour Le Mans. But indeed, Guariento not leaving anything behind and taking a sweeping win in the GTP AM class. And meanwhile, in the GT3 classes, well, we got to see absolute brilliance there as well, with the fact that Heroldus Jotatus didn't quite have the result he wanted necessarily in the GT3 Pro class there, but meanwhile, Hekon Gestad picked up his first win of the season, and we said he was going to return to the top step at some time. Meanwhile, in the GT3 AM class, we saw a 3rd podium of the season for Lawrence Marsh and grinding his advantage at the front of the field. But meanwhile, in terms of the winner last time out in the GT3 AM class, it was none other. And I do believe James Connolly, who absolutely delivered it right at the front, with Niall Killing close behind there, and the battle between the two of them could not have become more vicious in the closing stages with elbows out of plenty. But that's a recap all the way up to the end of round number 5, and now we head into the second half of the season with round 6 today, and then after today on the 5th of November in a week's time, we make way to Italy for the one and only Monza circuit. The Autodromo Nacional Monza Grand Prix circuit will play host to drives for round number 7, and there's definitely going to be a sprint to every braking zone on the long straights, and then we'll have our second mid-season break in honour, of course, of where's the official iRacing 8 Hours of Fuji event, which does occur the weekend after, and then we return to the racing action for the final 3 rounds of the season, starting with round number 8 at the Red Bull Ring in Austria on the 19th of November, and that is going to be an absolute cracker there, with its mix of straights and sweeping corners. And in our penultimate round, we're back to the USA for the 4th and final time this season, and back to Florida, funnily enough, like today, the Daytona International Speedway, the road course circuit on the 26th of November. Then we bring it all to a close in the United Kingdom at the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit on the 3rd of December. And save the date, if you can only tune in for 1 round this season, that will be the round you'll want to catch, although we recommend you tune in to every round, of course, but you never want to miss a season finale, and where better to bring it all to a close than the high downforce circuit of the United Kingdom, the home of British motor racing and Silverstone. But coming on to our circuit for today, then, it is none other than the Sebring International Raceway. We're running the full international layout, located near the town of Sebring in Highlands County of the state of Florida in the US of A. And as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful simulator and the circuit maps that come with it, this is a circuit that is much unchanged given its multi-year history. Indeed, the circuit spanning the best part of what is 70 years of history, if not a little bit more. Indeed, those 17 corners continue to outwit the best of drivers. For as they make their way around here, you'll see it's a combination of sweepers, hairpins and direction changes, and also a number of extended straights. There's everything to be loved here, but very little elevation change, much like the state of Florida itself, a very flat state in the, not the state, I should say, And as it is the state there, as I get myself mixed up between counties and states, but a very flat one in terms of elevation change on the whole, and that is echoed on the circuit. For as our drivers make their way around here across the start-finish line and in towards turn number 1, but coming to the sweeping left-hand, there will be a very noticeable difference of speeds between the GTPs and the GT3s, and as they come through the opening corner up towards turn number 3, they'll go via the Kinker 2 and onto the brakes heavy for the first time. Coming over through the tight section of turns 3, 4 and 5, they'll find themselves on traditional asphalt here as they power their way out of turn number 5 and onto Big Bend at turn 6, flat out all the way down towards the hairpin at turn number 7, and hard on the brakes they'll go before making their way up through the Fangio sweeper turns 8 to 9 and into Cunningham at turn number 10. There we'll see our drivers go for the right-hand right angle corner through Collier there, when the prototypes will be flat out. Meanwhile, the GT3s on low fuel they'll be flat out, but they may need to do a little bit of throttle lifting through there on heavy fuel. And as they come through Collier up towards Tower Corner at turn number 13, they'll be onto the brakes once again for the sharp right-angled right-hand corner, where they make their way down the back straight up towards Bishop and then into turn number 15. There we'll see our drivers have to negotiate their way back onto the runway, and as they make their way through 15 into Le Mans Corner at turn number 16, they'll be feeling the bumps of the road just as much as the curbs around there as they come out of Le Mans and onto the Allman Straight and charging their way down into Sunset Bend, the infamous corner there, in reference to the fact that's where the sun sets, and it'll be right in the eyes of our drivers should the sun be setting in the race, albeit I do believe the race actually is going to be in the morning, so they won't have to suffer from the sunset, although we'll have to have that confirmed. But as they make their way through the right-hander at turn number 17, they'll sweep all the way through to complete the lap and do it all over again. Now coming on to a quick reminder of the rules, we can't go racing without them. In terms of setups, drivers are no longer permitted to change their car as of the conclusion of round number 4, that was introduced as of last time out, and car fuel load shall be restricted to 100% for the GTP class and 70% for the GT3 class. Now qualifying wise, an open qualifying format shall be used, lasting 30 minutes and split into 2 equal halves. The first half is dedicated to the GTP class, our faster class, the prototypes, and the second 15 minutes is dedicated to the GT3 class. Now drivers may not reset to the pit lane during the session. If they do, they shall no longer be permitted to take part in qualifying. What that means is if our drivers do need to reset to the pit box, they have to come into the pit lane, and once they're in the pit lane, they then can proceed to reset to their pit box and go back out again. Indeed, they're not allowed to park up anywhere on circuit and then reset to the pit lane, and that adds a huge risk versus reward nature to qualifying. The fact if you get it wrong in your lap and you end up putting the car in the wall and you can't get the car back to the pits, that is your qualifying session done and dusted. It adds a little bit of realism to qualifying. And well, coming on to the wider race rules, as we can see, races shall commence by a double furrow rolling start, as is the tradition of this series, and that's within the designated start zone, which will be on the start-finish straight here after the car auto parts billboard all the way to the checker flag line. And when the GTP class begins their race, the GT3 class must hold formation until the GT3 leader enters the start zone and goes. And there are no mandatory pit stop requirements, although we are expecting at least one pit stop for fuel consumption to be accounted for, and each driver has one fast repair available, and all race tuning shall be conducted post-race, and a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 23 or more instant points. But I believe track limits here at Sebring are quite kind, so therefore we hopefully shouldn't see too many drive-through penalties, if any at all. That's enough rules, regulation, everything between. You're not here for all that, you're here for the racing. And well, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Timed in it's Greenwich Mean Time or Universal Coordinate Time, as we return to now the traditional British timing with the end of daylight savings. And as we can see, in just under 3 minutes time, we're going into our qualifying session, 30 minutes in duration, split into 2 equal halves, and then what will be 8:30 this evening, we will be heading to the grid for our one and only feature race, 60 minutes in duration, all the drivers out there, and we do have an absolutely ram-packed field of what is 46 drivers expected to take to the grid today. And I can tell you one thing, that is going to be tight, it's going to be close, and who will be coming out the top in some close quarters racing, we will have to wait and see. But in terms of ambient conditions right now, well, we can see 26 degrees centigrade track and ambient temperature here, so it's a relatively nice day in Florida, albeit I do believe it is quite early in the morning rather than late in the evening, and therefore all drivers right now just coming to terms with a circuit that is going to gradually heat up, particularly as we're going to qualify. As we do look to this man in the background right now, he is the big name who everybody is keeping their eyes on in the prototypes, Andrew Dawson, the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver from the United Kingdom. In making his debut last time out at Le Mans, he pushed Busby every step of the way. And I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, Dawson's pace out of the box is ferocious. He has a reputation behind him, a highly positive reputation. He's also a lovely chap down the paddock. Indeed, he's got time for everybody. He would not hurt a fly, and as he makes his way around here, where he's definitely going to be, I think, hurting the feelings of some drivers here as he tries tries to deliver the pace when he goes into qualifying, but how will he get on? That'll be the big question today, because he missed out on the win by a hair's whip last time out at Le Mans. Can he go one step further today and take the win in the GTP Pro class? We will have to wait and see. Me on the GTP AM class, it's a little bit quiet out there at the moment, but we do have Tiki Sim Sport Corpus John Doble making his way on around the Canadian 77 here as he rolls his way on through, run around in the Cadillac. The V-Series machine proving ever popular in this series and this season, given the current balance of performance, but we'll also be keeping our eyes on Guariento in the Porsche 963, and we do have a new GTP AM driver on the grid today, and here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the AI racer. He's DCW Racing, and he's also in the Porsche 963. It's number 84 driver here, James Foster, who makes his debut as of this round. He did sign up earlier in the season, but this is the first round he's been able to make, and we wish him all the best luck on his debut today. We look forward to seeing how he gets on in the upcoming qualifying session. But meanwhile, GT3 drivers are also out there, albeit our GT3 Pro drivers for the most part are all in the pit lane. But we do have our GT3 AMs out there, including Christopher Bates as he makes his way on through turn 1 in the Porsche 992. We're going to step away for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying's coming up in under 30 seconds. We'll be right back. As we return, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for qualifying. 30 minutes, it's lights out, away we go on this qualifying session. And we do apologise having to briefly step away at that point in time, but to provide a little bit of context as to why we do need to do that, it is just a safety measure to avoid any potential spoilers, because we are looking at an iRacing replay file as provided by Simon Bamber, one of the admins of UK Sim Racing. We really do appreciate the fact that he took his time out on Sunday yesterday to record the entire replay and provide it to us. And thank you, Simon. If you are tuning in right now, you definitely deserve a hero's pat on the back. But the fact of the matter is, when we do transition from practice to qualifying every so often, we can be thrown an error whereby we do end up with all the qualifying time shown on the left hand side of your screen before we even had our drivers leave the pit lane, and that's why we do step away to advance the session forward, so that way we avoid any of those spoilers, because we don't want those at the end of the day. But as we do see Alex Hill and company making their way up toward turn number 10 here, coming into Cunningham corner right now, where everybody absolutely roaring out. Then the Sebring circuit, quite a long circuit regardless of the class, not as long as Le Mans last time out, but indeed you want to try and get as much time on the circuit as possible, get every possible lap in you can, in the fact that it's going to be absolutely critical here, and overtaking the Sebring circuit is possible, but it is challenging, and that is why track position around here is going to be favourable for our drivers, and one man is going to know all about track position. Indeed, he took it last time out of Le Mans and he ran away with it. Indeed, he had nobody able to hold a candle to him, Salvatore Guariento, as we see him making his way on down towards turn number 10 here, and he'll be looking to go for pole position. And once again, there's a bit of a lock up there on the front left brake, a bit of brake dust kicking up then. Also, I think it might have drifted onto the dirt and grass there for a brief moment, but that's not caused him any problems at all. But the big question is then, what do you need to do to deliver a good lap here at Sebring, or how do you want to set up the car? Well, as we do see Joshua Wilson make his way on through, he'll be the first driver to go on to a flying lap here. The key thing about this Sebring circuit is the fact that you do need to firstly be very comfortable under the helm of the car, and the fact with all the bumps, and you can see those slabs of concrete there as Wilson makes his way off of the old runway surfaces and now onto the more conventional and modern asphalt. You need to be conditioned. You have to have the stamina firstly to be able to ignore those bumps or just feel them going through the steering wheel, and it's not just over one lap but multiple laps as you go through this qualifying session, particularly later on when you get the fuel out of the car and therefore you go on the forward tank. You cannot let yourself be disrupted by those bumps. But more importantly, with regards to set up the car, we do have multiple straights around here, but the straights in general are relatively short in terms of their run. The only key one's the longest, you could argue, is coming out of Le Mans and up towards where it's turn 17, or the run down the Allman straight as it's known. So therefore you want quite a bit of downforce in the car. Normally it's a bit of a medium downforce setup around here, but also in the braking zones you've got to be ready to brake as late as possible and go for late apexes. Late apexes absolutely pivotal of the Sebring circuit, and as you bring it around him, we're seeing Wilson do exactly that as he makes his way through turn number 11 and into 13 at Tower here. The later you can hit those apexes and the more confidence you can have on the brakes, the better the speed you'll carry from corner to corner, and that is going to bode very well. So you need a car that's comfortable on the brakes, but also it's got to be quick on the direction change around here. It really needs to dance, particularly in the latter half of the lap, as we're seeing him make his way from Bishop down into Le Mans here. And well, the last thing as a driver, you need to know what those track limits are, and a little bit of history for you, ladies and gentlemen, in the fact that when racing originally started to occur here at the Sebring circuit, it wasn't uncommon, particularly in longer endurance races, as our drivers made their way down towards what is now known as Le Mans corner at turn number 16, that you would have drivers accidentally drive their way further onto the old Hendricks Army Base airfield, and in fact end up having to retire from the race. They just park up, not knowing how how to rejoin the circuit, because originally the road markings were very difficult to see. In fact, there were no real road markings as such, and over time those road markings had to be painted and repainted, and therefore now we don't find drivers normally get lost at the Sebring circuit, but indeed in the opening decade it wasn't uncommon for drivers to get lost midway through the race and end up retiring just simply because they couldn't find their way back to the racing tarmac, or the racing concrete in this case. But as Wilson sets the initial time there, a provisional pole of a 43.308, which is currently 6 tenths faster than what anybody else has been able to achieve. But again, do keep in mind he is laying down a marker, and many will be looking to try and find a way to come back at it, as I am hearing there has been a bit of an incident for Paul Busby, and well, with that I believe he is leaving the pit lane at the moment, but will that potentially compromise his qualifying session? That will be the big question as he makes his way on out here. It's happened off camera as he comes up through turn number 1. Well, I think the fact he might have just had an off track, but he's going out there once again. So nothing too bad so far by the looks of things. But meanwhile, he heads up towards turn number 3 in the GTP AM class. Well, the man who struck the highest chord so far is none other than the Acura driver of David Larson for Symphonite. And well, we are keen to see how Larson can get on today, for the simple reason he is leading the way in terms of that GTP AM class championship battle going into tonight. And well, right now doing everything he can in order to be able to hold on. And when I say leading the way here, and the fact he's not actual championship leader going into tonight, that would be in the hand of Rob Armstrong, but he has been that driver who's been right up there all the way through this season, and he'll be feeling as though his consistency could be rewarded today and could potentially see him take that championship lead going into what is the rest of the second half of the season. But the change will be there for the 306 driver, and indeed a bit of a change there as he comes off of the apex at turn number 13, the rear of the car cutting loose as he took a bit too much apex curve. And well, these curves around here very high in terms of those apexes, particularly on what is the second third of laps. So coming out of the hairpin at turn number 7, which is a very low curve, but as you make your way through Fangio and up towards Cunningham through to Tower, those apex curves are absolutely merciless. And I can tell you one thing, these prototypes running their ride heights incredibly low to the ground. Same with the GT3s. You hit one of those curves, you are going to feel it through the steering wheel, and the car is going to give you some feedback whereby it will kick loose, alternatively it will understeer onwards. But as we do see Larson making his way through the final corner here and around up towards the start finish line he goes. What's it going to be this time? It was a bit of a compromise lap, and it's going to be reflected in the fact he does not improve there. Meanwhile, just a bit up the road, the BMW MV8 hybrid driver Auden Hegerstetter continues to improve here as he makes his way on through and up towards turn number 5. Here he goes once again as he charges up towards what will be a turn number 7 into the hairpin. Well, as he makes his way on through, we do have a couple more drivers getting ready to go on to their next flying laps, including none other than GTP AM Championship leader Rob Armstrong. Going to be, it's only fair we jump on board with the UK sim racing driver here as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Sebring International Raceway. He's making his way down towards turn at number 1, and look at this brake mark on the right hand side. No real brake marker, you've got to do it on feel. Trail braking in, down 2 gears to 4th gear and powering his way on out, but not too an aggressive run there, and I think he can carry a bit more speed. Now braking on what is a 150 metre cone coming into turn number 3. Snatching the car to the right here in first, get up to second and going into turn number 5 and just smoothly on through there, back down to first as he now makes his way through Big Ben, lets the car gradually creep out, but keeps a tight run through the corner and now over towards turn number 7, over to left he goes. Look at his brake marker there, using the cones and braking at what will be 150 metres corner apex all the way down to first gear. Plenty of apex curve there, lets the car flow a bit wide as he gets back on the power and now up through the Fangio sequence of turns 8 and 9 before he heads in towards turn number 10. Now bringing the car to the left hand side, looks to his left and braking here about 150 metres once again from corner apex down to first gear and coming on through, letting the car flow through here, the left-hander turn number 11, short shifting up to third, now letting the car come on through 12 and braking into 13. A bit of an odd angle there for the approach into 13, not confident I think on getting the car stopped in time, so they're going to brake quite early as Armstrong. He makes his way through Bishop here at turn number 14, into 15 he goes, and it's very hard to see the corners here. The cones help as he breaks 100 metres of corner apex through 15, and then coming into turn number 16, plenty of apex curve now onto the brakes, using the time marks there to help guide him on through, but runs very wide coming out of Lemon corner, and down Allman he goes. But for Armstrong, I think this is going to be a lap where he'll feel as though there's plenty more out there as he heads in towards Sunset Bend. Look to his left here, and he's going to brake as late as possible from 178 miles now all the way down to second gear, braking about 40 metres from the entry point. And as Armstrong makes his way on through, it's not been the best of laps from Armstrong, albeit as he comes to the line, he's currently P8, and that's where he's going to stay. So Armstrong right now really struggling in this qualifying session, it must be said, and how the fortunes are being reversed compared to previous rounds. Indeed, that first half of the season right now, but he's still got just under half the GTP qualifying portion of this qualifying session as a whole to try and improve. He is 3.2 seconds currently off of Guariento's pole time, and will Salvatore Guariento really in that Porsche 963. Can anybody stop him? That's the big question, as we see the front brake discs there glowing red hot. Those carbon ceramics absolutely cooking up a treat here. And I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, those carbon ceramics are made to last, but even so, the amount of heat that has been put through those brakes right now, that's why they're glowing red hot, and it is beautiful to see as we see him there trimming up some of the weeds on the left hand side of the road, right hand side from our cameraman's perspective, and as Guariento makes his way through, pushing those track limits as much as possible. But meanwhile, one driver who's absolutely flying here right now is none other than David Larson, as he makes his way in towards turn number 17. Traffic getting out of the way there. They know he's on a fast lap. He's gone purple in what is this final third of the lap as he comes on through. Can he get the perfect final sector, we should say, as he makes his way up towards the start-finish line? What will it be for Larson? He keeps over to the left. It's a 44.338, so this is not all going the way of Guariento. Right now, Larson takes provisional pole in the GTP AM class by 1.5 tenths, and then loses the rear coming through turn number 1, and that could be a very quick end to his qualifying session. It's a knock to the barrier on the inside. The front left suspension will definitely feel that, and then he's got to try and get the car all the way round if he wants to get to the pits and carry on this qualifying session. That could be it for Larson, and if so, that is a dramatic reversal of fortune there. And now Guariento will need to respond within 5 minutes. Larson has set the bar high, but has he set it high enough, given the fact he may have right now scuppered his opportunity to respond later in the session if needed? And I think that's it for Larson. I don't think he's going to be able to get it back. Meanwhile, at the front of the overall field in the GTP Pro class, it's Austin William Campbell who's the fastest out there by only 400s, but 400s or 4,000s, it's enough over Andrew Dawson right now, and the gap between the two of them could not be closer, as Dawson's on an outlap, and he's still got 4.5 minutes to go. And in fact, as I look to the circuit map, you can see in the top right corner of your screen, Dawson is just crossing the start-finish line to go onto a flyer, but Campbell here doing a good job thus far. Meanwhile, Manu's also on a mission to improve here, as we say hello to Ryan Moles of the Hate Fury 101. We've got to improve in terms of responding to you guys and you saying hello in the Twitch chat. And if you haven't said hello yet, don't be shy. Feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at UK Sim Racing. I promise you I don't bite in the commentary booth, and indeed I can promise you that 99.9% of the community don't bite. In fact, it is 100% there, but of course numbers may vary. And as he makes his way out of the final corner here, well, Wilson right now not quite getting the perfect end to lap, or does he? In fact, he does, and it's P3. He only went slightly down what was sub-sector 7 there, but it's a 42.852, and the top 3 in GTP Pro separated by 700. You absolutely love to see it for the simple reason these 3 of William Campbell, Dawson and Wilson are pushing one hard. 3 different teams here, albeit 2 sister teams of Effect Simulations, but they are separate teams for the purposes of the championship, and right now they are giving it everything here in that battle for pole position overall. And well, that could be the deciding fact here today, you never know. Meanwhile, some other drivers who are struggling by comparison. Sam Sherwood, the Protect Motorsport driver here in the Cadillac, he's currently 2 seconds off the pace as he goes on to a new flying lap. As he comes on down towards turn number 3 here, can Sherwood find a little bit of magic later in the day? Cy Anthony meanwhile holds P6, then he moves to P6 in fact on a 43.633, but as Sherwood comes on through turn number 5 here, absolutely using all the width of the road as you should, as he comes down through Big Bend here and up towards turn number 7 now. Is Brett Saint just missing that hidden element of Sherwood's qualifying session, which he needs to find a bit of an advantage. And meanwhile, Auden Hegersetter moves up to P5 in the GTP AM class on what was there, I do believe, a 46.10 to the nearest 100th. But as we do see here, what is our driver from Protect Motorsport, Sherwood making his way into Cunningham Corner at turn number 10. Onto the brakes he goes. We say hello there to Shaq TIR6. Good evening to you, Shaq. I hope you're doing well, and if I have mispronounced your name, I do apologise straight away. But as he heads into the braking zone here, Moles right now, we're going to stay with him all the way to the end of the lap there. And to be fair, it's looking a good lap so far. So where Moles is losing, well, not Moles, by apology, Sherwood getting my Protect Motorsport drivers mixed up then. Brian Moles is Protect Motorsport in the GT3 class, but Sherwood makes his way down in towards where it's turn number 15 and 16 here. Onto the brakes he goes, and as he does so, well, off camera, Dawson and Wilson swap places. Wilson Larson now, only 1,000th of a William Campbell's overall pole time. Goodness me, you could not cut it finer. But meanwhile for Sherwood, well, he's just trying to cut it a little bit closer to the front of the field as he comes into Sunset Bend here. Through the long right he goes, and as he exits the corner, can he find a way to improve here as he makes his way onto the Advanced Auto Parts billboard? And as he does so, he comes to the line. It's P8 now. He's improved by 6/10. It's a 44.170, and he parks up immediately. That's all he's got here today for Sherwood by the looks of things. And well, I don't think it's a qualifying session that's going the way he wanted it to. Meanwhile, GTP Am Larson still holds on to that provisional pole position by what is 1.7 tenths over Guariento, as we do see the Italian making his way on through Bishop, and now well, in fact not through Bishop, going through what is there. Now he's come through Bishop, we'll get it right that time around, and now going into Le Mans corner as he comes on through the right-hander, and as he does so, 1 minute on the clock. Of course, he will have the next lap he goes on to, given the fact he'll start it after what will be We'll be starting it before the 15-minute clock, and therefore he'll be obliged to finish it. Meanwhile, I think right now one man is just trying to put his stake on the ground and finish the job in qualifying. It's GTP Pro, and it's in the pole now for what is Andrew Dawson at 42.455. That's 3/10 faster than William Campbell. And can William Campbell respond? Well, if he runs wide like that, I don't think he's going to be able to, as he comes out of Tower Corner at 13. Down he goes through Bishop, and into turn 15 and 16 he makes his arrival now. Rudy Avitson, meanwhile, improves to P5 off camera for GTP Am on what is there 1.5 seconds off of Larson's pole time. So the gulf between drivers inside the top of the GTP Am class absolutely staggering. And well, in the GTP Pro class, that gap between the top 5 stands at 8.5 tenths here. But again, there are some drivers who are absolutely confident and cool as a cucumber when it comes to qualifying. But then again, let's not count out likes of Vitsland or Foster in the GTP Am class when they go racing, because we know, particularly with Vitsland, he's a much stronger driver under race pace. His consistency is phenomenal. And in the same, the GTP Pro class right now, so William Campbell crossing the line. It's not enough, and his qualifying session is done and dusted there. He will be starting P2 as he comes on through, but he won't get another lap in, so he's going to get out of the way of the GT3s because they'll be a bit slower coming around the circuit by comparison. But it does mean now we are almost at the end here, and well, we're in what is a bit of a difficult situation here for Rob Armstrong. He's currently P8 in GTP Am. He is 3.4 seconds off of the pole lap set by Larson and into the pits at Armstrong. It has been a dismal day of qualifying here for Armstrong. He has not got the pace. He's going to need to go back to the drawing board before he goes racing and try and figure out where that pace has gone in the car. The same for what is Alden Hegerstedt here, P6 currently, albeit can he improve right? At the end he does, and he pushes Avitson back to P6, and Hegerstedt goes into P5 as he crosses the line. And as he makes his way to a standstill here, well, that is the conclusion of the GTP qualifying session, and we're now into the GT3 qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen. And we should point out that with regards to the GTP qualifying session, that we have not had Darren Orcat actively participate in the session, and that is because he is serving a qualifying ban due to instant points accruing over the previous rounds. And you'll be seeing the same here in the GT3 session. Kerry F. Coram, the Downforce Racing driver, will not be putting in the qualifying time due to a ban that's been received due to instant points over the previous rounds. But as we do say hello to Sir Bottlejob, who's not had the pleasure of tuning in to a post-round broadcast before, well, we're doing our best here to make it sure as close as possible to live, Sir Bottlejob, but we're very happy to have you on board here. We also say hello there to Joshua Wilson, and well, as our drivers make the way on through here right now, well, between Wilson and Campbell in the end of that session, the battle for P2 in the GTP Pro class, it is 2,000s. We should point out, ladies and gentlemen, these times that you see on the time down the left-hand side of your screen, well, they are currently provisional qualifying laps. If anybody has had a track limit infringement as part of that lap, but the lap has been registered, we're only going to find out about that when we go to the grid, and we'll see the grid shaken up. But meanwhile, as our drivers all come through here, well, you can see on that circuit map, everybody in the GT3s now roaring their way through them on and onto the Allman Straight as quickly as possible. But then you are going to experience a little bit of traffic jam as everybody now having to wait and get some breathing room between one another. But as they come on around, meanwhile, we do look from what is here, I do believe Daniel Pays to our first drives going on to some flying laps, and that does include none other than Peter Cox as he makes his way across the timeline and down towards turn number 1 here in the Porsche 992. And in this GT3 class qualifying session, what could be the trend we expect here? We are expecting the Porsche to be quite a strong car, given the fact there is a lot of direction change with regards to the corners coming up, and therefore the Porsche is native to that ability to switch directions faster than most. It is the cornering car of its category. And on top of that as well, it does have some good acceleration in the lower gears, but it may suffer to a degree later on in the lap, particularly down the Auburn Straight as they make their way out to Le Mans up towards Sunset Bend. We're also expecting the Ferrari to go quite strongly here, as it has proven to be a bit of an all-rounder so far this season. Meanwhile, the likes of the BMW M4 may not be quite the ticket today, given the fact the BMW M4 is more focused around straight line speed and stability. It'll go well over the curbs, such as the curbs that CR drivers that made their way through Cunningham up towards Tower Corner, but it may not be enough to offset the fact that the car will be struggling in the corners by comparison. The same with the Mercedes, and the Audi R8 will be in a similar vein to the Porsche 992, and we of course do have that one and only Audi R8 here in the form of the privateer of Jack Barker as he makes his way up towards turn at number 3 shortly, and he heads down into that braking zone. Will the number 163 driver here be looking to try and build upon his P4 in his debut last time out of Le Mans? Indeed, it was a very well-driven P4, and I don't think anybody expected it, but then again, expect the unexpected, and you always will be surprised either way as he makes his way through the right-hander, further head in towards what is turn number 7 right now. Meanwhile, those first laps are going to start to come in very shortly, and this is the man that many will have their eyes on today, Aldous Jatatas, the Sebring that he is, your GT3 Pro leader going into tonight, and he has proven to be the man to beat when it comes to one-lap pace and also race pace as he comes towards the timeline, and as he heads on through, he's going to put the first lap on the board. It's a 59.585. Now, how will everybody respond to that? Who could go a bit faster, as we do have some more laps already coming on in, including one from Matt Edmondson. Mark Johnson immediately goes faster compared to Edmondson, as the UK Sim Racing sister team drivers here all start to put their times on the board. We also got a couple more drivers making the way for it. Marvin Cruz, the old dudes in cars driver, he's only good for P4 right now, the GT3 Pro class, as he heads across line there, and behind Nicholas Rice, and Will Rice as he heads on through that wonderful looking livery on the Ferrari 296, I can tell you that. And Will, lovely looking, it's not just his car but also his driving ability as he makes his way down towards turn number 3. And I'll tell you one thing, the way he drives right now, absolutely on the limit, but you wouldn't think that he looks as smooth as possible, albeit perhaps not quite smooth there as he comes through 3 into 4 and to catch the car a little bit, so we won't see his praises too high, but Rice makes his way down through turn number 6 and into 7 with 10 minutes still on the clock here. He'll be now looking to try and go a bit further. He's only 400th if that of the Collicott's time, and will Mark Collicott in the GT3 AM class. He's the driver who many right now I've got one eye on, in the simple fact that the AI Race Summits DCW racing driver really has proven to be one of those drivers who, when he's on form, he is unbeatable, and that's why he's a multi-time winner in this class already this season as he makes his way through the turn 7 hairpin in the number 5 Porsche 992. But can he add another win to his calendar season so far today, or will it be one of the situations whereby he finds that he's going to be on the podium or perhaps not on the podium? We'll have to wait and see after this qualifying session and once we go into the race. But right now I think Collicott's got everything lined up very nicely as he makes his way on through turn number 11 and all the way up towards turn at number 13. As he comes in towards the next braking zone, here through Tower Corner he goes, and well, I think many of you talking there about the different balance of performance in the GT3 class. A number of you, and Ryan Moles, well, the Audi R8 driver, he started off in the Audi but then made the switch, I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, to the Porsche 992, although I'm sure he'll correct me on that if I am mistaken. But as we do see our drivers going around here, many of you commented about the Audi in particular, the Audi R8, and also we say hello there to Vay Quing, who's talking about the Acura there in the Twitch chat. And as our drivers head on through it, meanwhile we look to Simon Hartley here, one of a number of TE Sim Sport drivers, and do keep your eyes out for the TE Sim Sport drivers in the Ferrari 296 machines, as we did talk to them earlier in the season. Particularly we did talk to what was none other than, if my memory does serve me correctly, Andrew Skinner a little bit earlier on the season about the fact the Ferrari drivers at TE Sim Sport are running a special livery in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, of course the month of October, which is gradually coming to an end, and it will be at an end tomorrow as of Halloween on the 31st, the next coming Tuesday. But the fact they're running a special livery there in support of Breast Cancer Awareness, and also in support of a close family friend of Andrew's. And Lisa, if you are watching today, again, we're supporting you in that battle against breast cancer, and we know you're absolutely doing your best in the fight there, and happy to see those liveries being run. As we do see Hartley making his way down the Allman Straight here and heading in towards Sunset Bend. We're very sure to get an on-board lap with one of our drivers. I do believe we're going to be getting an on-board lap with the last driver to come through to go on to another little flying lap, and it will be our resident driver here from the Oceania region. It's Adrian Kukulis as he comes on through. In fact, we won't be getting on board as he makes his way into the pit lane, and the Porsche 992 driver there, currently P3 in the GT3 Pro class, and on a good qualifying session thus far, but he's still looking for a bit more time out there, I do believe. Meanwhile, we look here to Mark Johnson, currently P3 in the GT3 AM class, and there you can see 8.5 tenths is the gap to Collicott's pole time. That is a phenomenal GT3 AM pole time. In fact, it's good enough for what is, I do believe, P7 in the GT3 category overall at the moment. And later on this season, ladies and gentlemen, we will be trying to update the broadcast with a few more features to be able to give you the relative positions of cars overall in the category as well as within their classes, as we do know that you love to see as much information as possible on the broadcast, so stay tuned for that. But we are working on it in the background. We have had some suggestions from some of you, and we are looking to implement them as soon as we possibly can. But we do see Johnson making his way on for the final corner, car quite tight. He's into the pit lane as well, so he's decided that he needs to put a new set of tyres or a bit more fuel in the car to get going once again. We do look to Casper Broughton here in the old Digit Cars Ferrari 296, and will very gingerly making it way through the corner. And I think we are entering that phase of the GT3 qualifying session where everybody right now is going in for a quick switcheroo of the tyres and also some more fuel to get them to the end of the session. And now they feel the circuit is really coming alive, and therefore they can go on the attack, and that's exactly what Kukulis will be trying to do here as he tries to attack his way in towards pole position in the GT3 Pro class, or at least narrow the delta and perhaps put himself on that front row of the grid, as we do see a little bit of bobbing and weaving from side to side from the Racing Lab Esports drivers. And ahead of the two of them is Anders Meyer. He's currently P2 in the GT3 Pro class, the BMW M4 driver here, trying to prove a point today, which is that he can put him on the GT3 Pro class. And let's jump on board him, ladies and gentlemen, as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Sebring circuit in a GT3. So he makes his way down towards turn at number 1 here. You see the difference. He'll have to be on the brakes quite sharply as he comes through, trail braking in, battling with some front end understeer there. 4th gear as he goes through the apex, and now up towards turn number 3. Flat out initially, and now onto the brakes, 100 meters to corner apex, down to 2nd gear, goes as late as possible into the corner, uses plenty of curve at turn 4, and now going for the late apex here at turn number 5, stays in 2nd gear, so that way he can get on the power a little bit more aggressively as he comes on through Big Bend now, and out towards turn number 7. Now he's got a breather, he's got the chance to reposition the car and bring it over to the left-hand side very gradually as he heads up towards 5th gear, and look at over to his left-hand side and braking 150 meters to corner apex all the way down the gearbox to 1st gear, absolutely mounting the apex curve as he comes on through the kinks and on towards Fangio. Now flat out here for turn 8 and then into left-hander at turn number 9, and you'll see he'll absolutely hug the curve here as he makes his way around and keep the car to left as he heads onto the brakes here for Cunningham corner, down onto the brakes, 100 meters to corner apex, into 2nd gear he goes as he exits. Now position the car well, just gradually bring it on through 11, not having to do too much steering input as he heads in towards 12. Now onto the brakes in, nice and late, braking 110 meters before the apex, down to 3rd gear, and as he exits Tower corner, a good run there, 2 wheels dipping slightly wide off the exit curve, but he'll get away with that as he heads in towards Bishop, going through 14. And in towards turn number 15 he goes, up to 5th gear and onto the brakes here, about 140 meters from corner apex, 3rd gear as he clips the curb, and now on through into Le Mans corner, following the car in front there, the TT Sim Sport Ferrari, using it as a little bit of a tow magnet now as he makes his way down Allman. This is working out quite nicely for Myra as he makes his way on through here, but he's going to get very close towards the end of the run. Is he going to get too close? That's going to put him on a compromised line here as he heads on down. In fact, no, it's with his teammates is working for it. It's not a TT Sim Sport car, and into Sunset Bend, 158 miles an hour, trail braking as he does so, and going all the way through 3rd gear here, and now exiting the corner flat out as he makes his way through, open the steering up. It's been a very smooth lap from Anders Meyer. What's it going to be worth in terms of qualifying time? Well, he does improve, but it's not enough to take pole. It's 4 thousandths the difference between him and Jotatos, but the Porsche 992 driver from Over Limit Racing stands strong versus the Racing Lab Esports driver, and the team trying to make the magic happen, but the magic not quite enough in the end. He wasn't able to pull that out of that as he makes his way through turn number 3 right now, thinking, what else have I got to do to get pole? Well, the only man who knows the answer to that question is this man on your camera, and that is number 56 driver of Haroldus Jotatos as he makes his way on through. It turns 8 and 9 through Fangio he goes, and can he raise the bar even higher? That'll be the question he'll be asking himself as he makes his way on through there. as he comes on through turn number 10 and in towards 11, 12 and 13 he goes. Right now it is looking to be a sunny day here at Sebring, and in particular the sun is smiling on the Lithuania Jotatas as he makes his way in towards turn number 13, and can he hold on to that pole position with 3 minutes to go? Meanwhile in the GT3 class he loses the rear through turn number 1 there, a bit too much speed on turning. Well, it is Mark Collicott there who's pushing the limits and then some, when he's got a 2/10 of a second advantage over next row Nicholas Rice. I think right now is maybe to satisfy his own curiosity. Well, curiosity killed the cat in that case. It killed the qualifying aspirations of Collicott. He's had to return to the pits after that whack to the wall, and that will be his qualifying session done and dusty. He will not be permitted to take part anymore. He may leave the pit lane, but I can tell you one thing, the stewards will be telling him, no, the previous lap you set is going to be good enough, and immediately he recognises that and he does leave the car. And therefore for Collicott right now, has he done damage to himself right at the end, and damage which could prove pivotal here today? Because meanwhile Nicholas Rice is still out there, and I can tell you one thing, Rice right now is improving in the middle sector of this lap as he's made his way through West Bishop and in towards Le Mans. Jotatas improves to a 59.187 off camera as he crosses the line, and indeed right now puts 3 tenths between himself and Anders Meyer, so it does look as though Jotatas saving the best till last. But meanwhile Rice here making his way on down the back straight, still trying to find a little bit more time, and we'll head in towards turn number 17. Meyer does improve, he's 1.5 tenths now for Jotatas, so it is a back and forth there, a bit of a yo-yo between Jotatas and Meyer, but it is Jotatas who seems to hold all the keys to pole position. Meanwhile Rice comes out the final corner, he's gone purple in subsector 7, he's really pushed here, he gains 600ths, but it's still not enough. It's a 2-minute point 2. Can he find more time, or is that it for Rice? He comes back onto the racing line, but that may be a suggestion there. He's cooling the car down now, he's not carrying anywhere near as much speed for turn number 1. I think for Rice that may be it, as meanwhile Ryan Moles goes P4 in the GT3 Pro class late in the day. Rice has done everything he can here, he can't throw any more else at this, and as we can see Mark Johnson moves up the P4 in the GT3 AM class here. We're 2 minutes 0.937. Well, right now Johnson only what is half a temp, just slightly over half a temp over Edmondson, so it is going to be UK Sim Racing lockout on that second row by looks things of GT3 AM if things stay as they are. But then again, we've still got drivers on laps, and anything can happen before this is all over. And meanwhile, as we do look to them, well, we've got any surprises further down the order? With James Conley perhaps the biggest one, P6 at the moment in the GT3 AM class. This qualifying session just not going the way of the 46 driver after what we've seen from him in previous rounds, and I think Sebring really proving to be a bit of a fly in the ointment for many drivers. It's got a very different flow, Sebring, compared to some of the circuits, and that's one of the things that many drivers were remarking on when they finished Le Mans last time out, is that the second half of the season is very different compared to the first half in terms of the circuits that we're going to be seeing things play out as. But meanwhile, as we look to Jack Barker, who tries to improve there, he does not. Meanwhile, in the rear of the picture, we do have our oldest Jotatas coming on through. Ahead of him is Matt Edmondson. Edmondson improves to P3 in the GT3 AM class. Jotatas raises the bar again, it's a 59.014, and meanwhile Joshua Pratt makes his way on through. He does not improve, he stays P10 in the GT3 Pro class. The clock strikes 30 minutes. Checker flag is now being waved. This is going to be the end of qualifying, ladies and gentlemen. Who can improve right at the death of the session? Anders Meyer is into the pit lane. He will not be improving. What about the drivers just coming on through close to him? Well, I do believe Thomas Aspaug also in, so he's going to be P3 in the GT3 Pro class at best. Chris Kirtland coming on through the final corners here, and as he makes his way on through a long right-hander and up towards what will be the starting line, can he improve from P7 and GT3 Pro? We're about to see here. I don't think he's going to. In fact, he does sweep it on through for a 59.771. Eric Rosev behind P7 at best end of the rear picture, and that's a shock for the number 1 driver in the fact P7, he's got a lot of work to do when we go racing. But then again, we know that Rosev can battle his way through. Indeed, he is one of the most ferocious when he needs to be, albeit fair and ferocious, we should point out. And well, as we do see Joshua Pratt cooling on down here, in fact, he might still be on a lap given the fact he is within a minute of that checker flag being called. So I think it was one of the last drivers to get out there. And well, as he does so, haven't got anybody else heading towards the line. Well, Daniel Pace is going through the final corner from what I'm hearing in my ear. And indeed, as he comes out the corner there, I think he feels like he might be improved from P14 in the class. No, he does not. He stays there, and he'll be the lowest placed driver in this qualifying session who set a lap for the GT3 Pro of Corcoran. He could not set a lap, of course, given the qualifying ban. And meanwhile, Gristad not able to put a lap in today due to an issue with the car by looks things. But meanwhile, Barker making his way And down the Allman straight here, the Audi driver coming on through. Off camera, Darren Sharples has crossed line. He's not improved from P12 in the GT3 Pro class. And Sharples, another surprise that we normally expected to be battling for the top 5 in qualifying. But Barker comes on through in the Audi R8 LMS. The 2015 machine still having some life in it in the form of the capable young Britishman. He crossed line, he does improve. But it's still P7 there. It's not enough to elevate his position. And then Joshua Pratt will come to the line. He will get this lap in just about. Indeed, the last ride to cross line. In fact, Pratt parks up in the end. I'm not sure if he's run out of fuel or whether he's just run out of patience again. It's a line, but either way, I think he's feeling as though he's not going to improve in this qualifying session. Kukulis on a cool down here. So in the end, ladies and gentlemen, that's GT3 qualifying complete. It's Shatatis on GT3 Pro pole and overall pole. Collicott on GT3 and pole. And just to remind you, GTP overall pole goes the way of Andrew Dawson. That's also for GTP Pro pole. And meanwhile, in the AM category, it is David Lawson. As meanwhile, we've got a couple of drives out on circuit, but they're on cool down laps. They're not on valid laps. And as he makes his way on through the right hand here, we do see Kirtland coming in to the pits. We have Barker clarify there in the Twitch chat that he was on an improving lap. He was 0.4 a second up, but ran out of fuel, and that really causing his lap to drag to its conclusion. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to head to the grid for our race for today. And this is how they'll all line up for round number 6 of the UK Sim Racing GT3 GTP Multiclass League Season 1, as brought to you on iRacing and live today as a post-round broadcast on twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing. And it is Andrew Dawson who takes his first pole position of the season for Effect Simulations Club Sport, and he is joined on the front row by Joshua G. Wilson for Effect Simulations. Behind them on row number 2 is Austin William Campbell for Symphony Esports and Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport. And on row 3, Cy Anthony lines up P5, the privateer, joined by Alex Hill, P6 for Tiki Simsport Copper. We then have on row number 4, Ryan Davis starting P7 for Tiki Simsport, and he's joined by Alexander Trina McCalson for Racing Lab Esports Moza. And then starting last but not least in our GTP Pro category inside that top 10, it is Sam Sherwood who kicks off row number 5 for ProTech Motorsport, and he is joined on that row P10 by David Lewison, your GTP AM pole sitter for Symphony Esports. On row at number 6, just outside the top 10 best threads, is Salvatore Guariento from Mural.io, and he is joined on the 6th row in P12 by John Doble for Tiki Simsport Copa. Then behind them on row at number 7, we do have the pairing of James Foster for our Racing DCW Racing and Alden Hegerstater for Racing Lab Esports Moza, with row number 8 going the way of Rudy Avitzland for Racing Lab Esports KTM and Aaron Beaver for UK Sim Racing Bell. On row at number 9, meanwhile, we have Rob Armstrong, who'll be the final GTP qualifier there in terms of that top 17 altogether in the pack for UK Sim Racing Bell, and then he will be joined on that row, albeit they'll separate when they go into the formation lab. You'll have your GT3 overall pole sitter and also your GT3 pro pole sitter, I should say, of Herodas Jatatas for Over Limit Racing. And then on row number 10, it'll be Anders Meyer for Racing Lab Esports Moza, and Racing Lab Esports Car X's Thomas Aspau completes your top 20, with Ryan at Mole started P21 for ProTech Motorsport and joined on the 11th row by Chris Kirtland, P22 for Downforce Racing. On row at number 12, it'll be Adrian Kukulis who starts P23 in a great qualifying session for the short competition esports driver, and he'll be joined there by Eric Rosev, who on the contrary had a difficult qualifying session for Race Lab Esports KTM. And then on what will be row at number 13, it is Pete Cox for UK Sim Racing Hill and Chris Constable for UK Sim Racing Mansell, with row number 14 going the way of your GT3 AM pole sitter and Mark Collicott for AI Racing DCW Racing, and he'll be joined there by none other than Joshua Pratt for Tiki Simsport. And then on row at number 15 to complete the top 30, it's Casper Brotner for Old Dudes and Cars and Dirty Rice Racing's Nicholas Rice, who's P2 in the GT3 AM class, and we looking to hunt down Collicott as soon as possible. Starting on the 16th row of the grid, it'll be Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill and Mark Johnson for UK Sim Racing Mansell. The two teammates there having a great qualifying session, P3, P4 in their GT3 AM class, with Darren Sharp will start in P33 for UK Sim Racing Mansell, and he'll be joined on the 17th row by Steiner Sunny for Racing Lab Esports Car X. And then behind them, on row number 18, it'll be James Conley for UK Sim Racing Hill and Jack Barker, the privateer, who will be starting P36. We'll have a great qualifying session there for Barker, and Conley still trying to find some time out on the circuit. And then we'll see in row number 19, Marvin Cruz at Old Dudes and Cars and John Davis at the wrong stuff. They'll be starting on the 19th row of the grid, and then completing the top 40 on our 20th row, it'll be RGV Races Christopher Bates and Simon Hartley for Tiki at Simsport Tour. And then we will see Daniel Pace, who starts technically last but not least in terms of the qualifying drives who managed to put times on the board. It'll be Daniel Pace who starts P41. And what we can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we did have a question about Paul Busby with regards to when he came into the pits and made his way back out, whether there was an incident, and it has been given the verdict that in fact there was an incident which saw him have to be towed to the pits, and Busby will be starting from the back of what is the GTP class there, so he'll not be taking that position further up the order that we talked about earlier, so he'll be starting at the back of that class. Also Hekon Gristad there for Igneo at Motorsport, well, he'll be starting And what will be P43, they're not setting the time in the GT3 class. Billy Bob Ray for Empire Motorsport. He'll be starting from the back of the GTP class as well, and GTP AM. And then we see Darren Orkett with that qualifying ban. He'll be starting at P45, albeit he'll be elevated to the back end of what will be the GTP class there. As you can see on camera in the background, obscured by a grid. And then starting last but not least in the GT3 class, it'll be Kerry F. Kokoran for Downforce Racing. That's how your 46 starters will line up, ladies and gentlemen. And as they all get set and ready to go, well, we do look to the front of the field here to none other than what is Andrew Dawson as he makes his way through, and Will Wilson with him here. And these two, they are now only half a lap away from going green flag racing, and it's going to be the Effect Simulations pair, albeit one from Club Sport and one from the main team. And who will come out on top come the end of the run to turn number 1, or turn 3 we should really say? Will it be Dawson or Wilson? Meanwhile, in the GTP AM class, we're going to have a little bit of sensational battle between Lois and Guariento. It will be the battle of the Acura and the Porsche. The Porsche coming off of momentum at Le Mans, but Larson at Shine, he has definitely got the pace here to take the fight to Guariento, who out of the two of them will win the race to turn number 3. And then in the GT3 class will Jotatas and Anders Meyer. Jotatas has been in this position multiple times this season. He has had Racing Lab Esports right on his heels, and if it's not them, it's another team. But the thing about the over limit racing drivers, nobody's quite managed to push him over limit just quite yet. But will he find his limit today, or will he run away with it once again? We'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, behind them in the GT3 AM class, Mark Collicott's given himself a brilliant qualifying position ahead of Nicholas Rice. But will he be able to convert that into a good start and eventual race win? We'll have to wait and see. All that and more due to come, ladies and gentlemen. The GT3's making the way through the Mont corner. They are approximately about 15 seconds behind the GTPs, but meanwhile the GTP's making the way into the final corner right now, and it will be to Andrew Dawson to take us to the green flag racing for 60 minutes of racing here in round number 6 of the GT3-GTP Multiclass Series Season 1, as brought to you by UK Sim Racing here today at Sebring International Raceway. And it's lights out and away we go for the GTPs as Dawson gets the jump there, and Wilson as they make the way down towards turn 1. And notice how William Campbell and Newman are fighting already side by side into the opening corner. They come through. Campbell defends well here as they come through a left-hander, but now up towards turn number 3 they go. And as they do, it's going to be a mad scramble medley here under braking. Meanwhile, that's going to be Alex Hill up the, well, being outbroken by Ryan Davies on the run. And we come then to the GT3 start here, and Jotatas taking his time, but in then goes late in the day. And Jotatas once again with a great start leads the way down to turn number 1 here, starting from the pit lane. Meanwhile, we have seen, I do believe that is Darren Sharp who's up to the start from the pit lane, but Jotatas leads the GT3s onto their race as they make the way towards turn number 3, run wide there from Kukulas, who was already under a bit of pressure from Kirtland behind. Meanwhile, Rosev and Cox up the inside here. This is a P7 in the GT3 Pro category. Rosev not backing out, but Cox saying, no, you are going to back out, as Rosev loses the rear of the car and goes round into the barrier there, and Rosev just taking a bit too much speed on cold tyres, and it's come back to bite him in the backside immediately. But meanwhile, the rest of the GT3 field make the way through safely. No major changes further up the order in terms of the GT3s. But I'll tell you one thing, Christopher Bates right now, he's already gained 2 places in class. The RGB racing driver making major progress here as he's already moved up into his P7 class. He's got ahead of Barker. He's also got ahead of Davis along the way as they make the way up towards turn number 10. But as they do, well, right now we do take a look a little bit further up the order, and will Rob Armstrong has dropped a long way down. UK Sim Racing Bell Drive, he's had an incident somewhere and off track, and it's definitely hurt him massively as the UK Sim Racing Bell Drive and Aaron Beaver as well. The 2 UK Sim Racing Bell Drives both having a disastrous start to this race on the open lap. Indeed, things not going their way whatsoever. But meanwhile, we look from them back up to the GTP AM leader, Guariento, and he's found his way past Lawson off camera, and I believe that's happened in the run to the hairpin on this opening lap. But as they make the way on to another lap here, Billy Bob Braymill's had a spin at what is at Sunset Bend, and meanwhile, as they all head on down, we've got a bit of a battle here. Busby trying to cut his way through the field as quickly as possible. We haven't started from the back of the class. The 420 driver here wasting no time as he picks up Alden Hegersetter, and now heading in towards turn number 3 for the second time asking today, and onto the brakes here. Meanwhile, we've had a bit of an incident in the GT3 class for Matt Edmondson, who finds himself pointing in the wrong direction coming out of Le Mans. Was that assisted or not? I can't quite tell you. What I can tell you, his race and the front end of that Ferrari are both looking to be in a bit of tatters. But meanwhile, as he tries to get himself righted in the GT3s, well, it's going to be Jotatas who leads on to the next lap. But meanwhile, it's side by side here between Moles and was Aspau. Aspau on the outside, Moles on the inside. Moles is not holding back as they head in. The Porsche going all in here as he rolls his way through a long left-hander, and Aspal letting it go to go for the cutback here as they head up towards turn number 3. Onto the brakes, they make the way, and Moles right now getting the job done there. It's a smooth move for P3, and the number 18 driver here making progress. His next target will be Anders Myra, and will could Moles today perhaps be the one that chase down Joe Tartas? I mean, at this rate of knots, you wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Again, it's very early doors here. Let's not read too much into it, but Moles is flying. That's one thing you could definitely read out of this as he makes his way up towards turn number 7. As they head in towards the braking zone here, and on it's the anchors they go into the hairpin. Well, right now they all stay as they are. Nobody trying to look for an adventurous move up the inside and going out to the corner. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Rice still trying to find a way to chase down Collicott. He's got Grotner between himself and Collicott. So far, Rice not really able to make any progress in terms of hunting down the GT3 AM leader on the pole sitter. But as they head into the braking zone here for turn number 10, he'll be biding his time. Meanwhile, speaking of one driver right now, he's not got time to buy. And the fact he had that spin right at the start, it's Eric Rose, the number 1 driver here, looks up the inside, he can't quite find it versus Hartley and has to back out as they make the way through the right-hander and into the left of 11. As he does so, meanwhile from them already James Foster here being passed by Darren Orkett, letting the GTP Pro drive going through. The GTP's onto lap number 3, and Foster right now P4 in the GTP AM class. He won't be complaining about that. It's a great debut so far after a good qualifying session. And the Aero Race W's DCW race drive focused his fight on Doble, and also keeping in mind an ordinate Hegeseta who's closing behind gradually as they make the way up towards turn number 7. As they charge way through, you've seen the different characteristics here as well. The Porsche versus the Cadillac. And also the BMW behind. The Cadillac having the straight line speed, the Porsche having the cornering capabilities, and then the BMW find itself right in the middle of both of them as they make the way out to turn number 7 and up towards 10 they go, and will there Foster and Hegeseta both having a difficult run through the heaven. Hegeseta a bit more so, and therefore losing some key time versus the Britain, but Foster right now just doing everything he needs in order to hold on for the time being. As he heads on through turn number 11 and up towards 13 he goes. Meanwhile, we look back to Chris Kirtland here, who's trying to make a bit more progress as we jump on board with the Downforce Racing driver. They're getting very close to back of Aspal as they come in towards turn number 3. This is the battle for P4 in the GT3 Pro class. He immediately goes all in the inside there. Will Kirtland, as much as he dares to dream to do so to make the move happen, he does, and all the way in with that one. And meanwhile, Peter Cox here looking around the outside of the turn. Aspal out of position, but what he's not out of is placement on the inside into turn number 7, and that's going to make Peter Cox have to do it the hard way here, but he's going to go for it. The Porsche's got the better brakes, and as they make the way through the right hand of Peter Cox gains as well. So there, a daring move from Kirtland, it upsets the balance of Aspal, and it's 2 places for the price of 1 loss there for Aspal. Meanwhile, Kirtland and Cox both gaining the place, and what I don't think it's quite over yet as the dominoes continue to trickle, and Adrian Kukulis now on the back of Aspal as they make the way through turn number 10. But Constable and Pratt queuing up behind. Indeed, it does look as though we've got quite the line of cars starting to form up here, but look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the top 9 of the GT3 class all together here as they make the way through Tower of Ben, with Tartas at the front of it. Indeed, right now that top 9 separated by 6 seconds as they make the way on down in towards Bishop's Corner, and will nobody really able to break away here. I think it's going to be just as much about time fuel management as it will be about outright pace here, given the fact it's so easy to make a mistake at the Sebring circuit regardless of what class you're in and what car within the class. But as they come on through, well, right now getting a bit closer is Joshua Pratt. Pratt looking for a potential move here versus the Constable as they make the way down the Allman Straight. In the battle of Ferrari on Ferrari here, it comes down to driver and setup, and Pratt not able to gain as much in the draft compared to Constable. And I do wonder whether TE Simsport perhaps invested a little bit more downforce in this car in order to give Pratt the better opportunities on the open half a lap, with the circuit's not as open in terms of straight line speed. We can see Constable there getting a better run out the corner initially, but then having to back off. He got close to the wall. Pratt by comparison staying within 3 tenths. He powers his way across the line, going up towards turn number 1 they go, and as they do, on to the brakes very shortly. Got Billy Bob around there inside. Pratt gives the space. Ray there really pushing as much as he can, trying to make up for lost time and early spin in this race. And as they make their way down to the braking zone, meanwhile, we've got a change here further. That's Johnson and Conley. Conley on the right, your picture. Johnson left, your picture. And Conley up the inside in, where it's the 2 different UK sim racing sister teams here. But Conley right now, after an awful qualifying session, I think he'll feel compared to his usual standard, albeit still giving himself an opportunity to chase down the top 5. He's already up into P3 in the GT3 AM class. And right now, Conley really pushing on. He's the fastest man in GT3 AM right now. He's outpacing Collicott at the front of the field, but then again, Collicott could just be pacing himself in these early stages. But meanwhile, we have had an update, ladies and gentlemen, from Larson in the Twitch chat. That's David Larson to say that the move was made by Guariento into turn before turn number 1. So therefore, these two swapping place early on. So Guariento getting the better start, but still it's not over yet. Larson versus Guariento, the battle of Porsche versus Acura as they head on through turn number 5 and down towards 7 they go. They've got Norquette closing up. Will be Norquette in the GTP Pro class here. He'll be thinking about making a move, and I wouldn't be surprised if Larson and Guariento will be thinking how best to let Norquette go without losing time or potentially compromising the time of the other driver. As Guariento goes a bit deep there into the hairpin, you can see that Larson's starting to leverage some pressure here as they make the way in through Fangio up towards turn number 10. And I wonder where Guariento in these early stages of the race right now is perhaps just having to dial things down a little bit, because it does look as though Larson, the stronger of the two here in this back and forth between them as they make the way through turn number 11. But then again, could this just be where Guariento right now trying to get himself comfortable in the car, and if he can find that comfort zone, then Larson may start to find that gap opens up a little bit more. But that Acura definitely looking very rapid in the early stage of this race. They make the way on through it. Edwardson there with damaged car, still trying to limp on P10 GT3 AM. Guariento taking some grass. He turned into turn 15 now. I think the Italian right now definitely feeling a lot of pressure, and it's understandable. He wants to try and make it back-to-back wins for the German mark, and as he makes his way up towards turn 17, the Mural.io driver will get a better run there coming out of Le Mans corner, putting the gap up to 7 tenths, 4 tenths gained a single corner. And as he heads in towards Sunset Bend, well, we've now just got to wait and see how it will play out on the next couple of laps here as he rolls as well the apex there onto the next one. Meanwhile, staying with the theme of GTPs, we do have here Austin William Campbell currently P3 in class, trying to weave his way in amongst the traffic. He's got Joe Newman for company behind, and then Cy Anthony will right now finds himself absolutely bombed with where his GT3 is there as he makes his way into turn number 5. But this is very awkward for the Welshman. As you can see behind, that is Ryan Davies literally kissing the rear of his car as they make the way through 6. I think Science right now thinking, okay, I need to get past them, but it's the worst place to do so is through turns 3 and 5. But that's what Sebring does in multi-class racing. It gives you nightmares and also pleasantries in equal measure. And as he comes on through the hairpin right now, Ryan Davies right there. The BMW trying to push on Alex Hill now. Find a bit of traffic coming out of the hairpin, not working for the TE corporate driver. He wants to be right up there with Davies, his teammate, as they make the way down towards the braking zone. Sam Sherwood having to go all in here on the inside versus Eric Rose here. If the Protect Motorsport driver doesn't want to be out of this, it really is the big question of in the fact that right now you don't want to miss out, because the multi-class situation can mean that a driver who's 5 seconds up the road suddenly falls within a second of you very shortly after. But meanwhile, looking back here to Alexander Trevino Macau, so he's sandwiched there by his racing lab Eastwood's GT3 teammates, and well, they're not going to make it difficult for him at all. In fact, he'll be on the radio to tell him he's coming on through, and they need to mind him as he does so. But he heads in towards turn number 15. Let's wait and see here whether the Norwegian driver can get a bit closer to the likes of Sherwood and company in front. But meanwhile, looking from here back to the GT3s, we look to Mark Collicoy. In fact, if we say back to GT3s, in fact, in front of the GT3s, they are just a bit further up the road. This is still your GT3 AM leader with Austin William Campbell right behind, and then Joe Newman. Will they make the way through it? In fact, we bring our focus back to Campbell versus Newman here as they head on to the next lap they go. And as they do, Newman right now, he's practically an arm's reach to look for a move. Can't quite find it this time around, but he is there, and it's going to be a compromise exit out of 1 for William Campbell as he gets too close to Kukulas. Onto the brakes they go, up the inside the pair of them are, and Newman there and a back out through fear of sending Aspal off onto the grass. They made their way through Frey, and will the Empire Motorsport driver just missing out that final 5% that he needed as they head on towards turn number 7. And as they come on through, meanwhile, Alex Hill here getting a better run compared to what is Ryan Davies, and well, they're having to pick their way through the GT3 traffic, and this right now is uncomfortable for them, and it's making my spine crawl a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, in the fact that how they do this in excess of 150 miles an hour, negotiate the traffic, then into the braking zone, and all the while maintaining the race as well in amongst their class. Well, it's beyond me, but I can tell you one thing right now, Davies and Hill picking their way in amongst the GT3 Pro drivers and making it look simple, but it's anything but that. And you see Kukulas giving the space, but Aspal still not able to break away from Kukulas despite the fact he's had multiple opportunities. Then Sherwood being made to go so far around, he's almost ended up towards the tyres there as they enter the braking zone, and from them, Aspal right now under huge pressure here, from which Kukulas in the battle for P6 of the GT3 Pro class, they make the way off the tower and in towards Bishop they go once again, but Aspal getting a better run there, and as they make the way in towards 15 and then Le Mans, well, that's how we're hoping right now that potentially Chimino Macalso could just be a bit inappropriate and get in the mix with Kukulas coming through Le Mans, but he doesn't. In fact, he's patient, and fair play there to Chimino Macalso, decides to play the patience game, and I think Kukulas will be very grateful for that as they power the way on down. But meanwhile, from them we look back to Casper Brotner. who's still trying to beat his way past Mark Collicott and on the toe there. And with the GT3 AM leader right now taking some pro scouts as he goes, as they make the way in towards turn number 17. But as they come through Sunset Bend, Collicott having the better run of everybody. Meanwhile, we've got a car pointing the wrong way for a brief moment, I do believe. And that is Thomas Aspau, who's lost it. Coming through Sunset Bend, he gets it turned immediately, but the tyres on that car will not be too happy. And well, I think that spin under momentum, I'm not sure if there's a tap potentially for him. But meanwhile, pulls that forward as it's free wide into turn 1 and through the middle. It's Casper Brotner, but meanwhile on either side, that's Rice and Constable, the UK sim racing drivers here having to negotiate each other, and also Rice, and it's going to be Rice on the inside there versus Brotner into turn number 3. So Rice being the aggressor here, up the inside he goes, and in turn number 5 he'll get it done. Meanwhile, it's disaster behind Constable and Brotner in contact with one another, and well, as our cameramen struggle to find the angle, there it is, and Brotner and Constable coming together at turn number 5. Brotner returns to the racing, gets off race line as soon as he can. It's disaster for them, as meanwhile the likes of Barker and Rose have picked the way and through, and well, right now for Brotner and Constable, I think they might be having a little bit of a conversation after race, asking how exactly did that happen. But meanwhile, as Brotner there to the barrier, the car is not in a fit state to continue, ladies and gentlemen. We look back to the GTPs, and here we are, the P5 GTP AM driver of Rudy Avitzlam, as he comes on through. One is turn number 10 in towards 13, he charges, and as he does so, well, he does have teammate Hegersetter just behind him. So right now the Racing Lab esports drivers, they're running P5, P6 in their respective class, and as they make their way in towards the latter half of the lap, finding themselves the best part of what is 5.5 seconds almost off of James Foster, who's P4, and right now the traffic not falling favourably for them, there's no question about it. But as they come down towards Le Mans corner, meanwhile one driver right now who seems to have found his way clear of all the drama, of all the traffic and all the rest of his competitors. Here's your race leader overall, his GTP Pro leader of Andrew Dawson for Effect Simulations Club Sport, and the number 9 driver right now, new fastest lap of the race that last time around at 43.92 to nearest 100, and Dawson is not hesitating on pulling the trigger and just trying to fire himself away with this race, because you can see there, look in the rear of your picture, and there is Joshua Wilson, his sister team driver, as we do see the FX Simulations driver from Sweden coming down towards turn number 7. But right now Wilson just does not have a response, but he is clear of Austin William Campbell, so we could be looking at another FX Simulations 1-2 here today. Not quite 1-2-3 unless Busby's able to carve his way through the field, but I can tell you right now that Busby has retired after 2.5 laps of racing, so I think that 1-2-3 is not going to be on the card today. I think it'll be a 1-2 at most if it does transpire. But meanwhile, we do have some pit stops playing out. David Larson into the pits very early here. The 306 driver from Symphonite deciding to come in on what is the 14.5 minute mark, and I wonder if this might be a tactical undercut here indeed. We wouldn't be surprised. A number of drivers have gambled with the undercut earlier on this season, and particularly at Indianapolis. We saw how strong the undercut was in the season opener, and could Larson be making this work? That will be the idea. Meanwhile, as he makes his way past John Davis, the livery there for the wrong stuff, which always captures the eye, as indeed it does have the stars on the front of it, and we do see that's off the road. That's Steinar Sani getting it very wrong, as he's made his way out of turn number 5, and the Racing Lab esports car X driver in a very rare error from the BMW M4 driver. We normally find that he's one of the last to make errors in his respective class. Well, today he's definitely made an error, and we've got it on screen. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 7 right now, I think Sani at Finn, as he's got it all to do once again. He's got Matt Edmondson 6 seconds behind, and Edmondson's pace not quite there versus Sani at the moment. So I think right now the 78 driver just recompose himself and get back in the hunt, but definitely not the way he wanted to go, and losing multiple places in that moment. And as he makes his way up towards turn number 10, we have had some further clarification with regards to what it is, Larson coming into the pits, and it's not a tactical pit stop or a strategic one. It is for some repair work after contact with a GT3, which did spin at last corner, and that would have been the spin, I do believe, that Aspau. So the two of them coming together there, and therefore that's what's led to Larson coming into the pits prematurely, and that really releases Guariento right now into a 4.5 second lead in the GTP AM class. Well, I'm not going to try and put the commentator's curse on him, ladies and gentlemen, but right now the fortunes are looking good for the 210 driver from Italy, the Mural.io machine, in a very lonely lead. But then again, that could be exactly what he needs here to make it back-to-back wins going into this second half of the season. As Norquette looks up the inside, there's a bit of a rub between the two of them, and I think Norquette just wanted to clear Guariento. I think Guariento, by comparison, feels as though it could be done elsewhere. It doesn't need to be done at the hairpin. Well, Norquette's going to have a look at this again as they make the way out towards Cunningham. In they go. Norquette's there, really trying to get the message to Guariento, which is, look, I want to come and through, but Guariento right now not biting on the message and instead just holding position as they make their way in towards turn number 13. And well, there's no reason why they should fight for overall position, given the fact all the points are accrued for what is class leadership position. But still right now, Guariento, I think, just being as he wants to hold on for the time being. But you can see a flash of lights there from Norket. And Norket, I think, feeling frustrated here. He's not being allowed to make progress because he is moving very rapidly at the moment as he makes his way in towards the long corner. His pace right now is top 5 pace in the GTP Pro class, but he needs clear air in order to make that pace a reality. As they make their way down Albany out towards Sunset Bend. Meanwhile, we look back to the battle for P3 in the GTP Pro class, and this is Austin William Campbell still holding position versus Joe Newman. And well, these two, they have been back and forth for a good portion of time. I can tell you that in terms of the gap between them, it's never come closer than 2 tenths since lap number 3. But still, right now, the Britons not letting one other go, and the two fellow countrymen are really pushing each other to the limit. And right now, I think they'll feel as though that final spot at the podium will be the equivalent of a race win for them today when you take effect simulations out of the equation, given the fact they just seem to be on a tier of their own with regards to pace, particularly Dawson up front. But as they make their way through turn number 7 and onwards towards turn number 10, we've still got a long way in this race to go. Indeed, we've only got 18 minutes on the clock so far. We've still got another 42 plus the final lap, so this is by no means over yet, and indeed anything can happen before it is all over as they make their way out through turn number 10 as they come on through the corners. Meanwhile, from making their way up towards turn at number 13 very shortly, we do look from them. We're hearing that Billy Bob Ray is there to be towed to the bits, and the same for Chris Constable. So both in an unfortunate instance off camera. It does mean that they're going to be having a long tow time and then a repair work on the cars. But from them, we do look here and ride on board with Mark Johnson, P4 in the GT3 AM class, as he makes his way in towards turn number 1. Once again, he's still behind Conley. And well, I think right now there might be a bit of a mutual teamwork agreement between these two, which is we're just going to work together and try and gain some race time versus the likes of Nicholas Rice. Now, Rice from them is 3.5 seconds up the road or thereabouts. So I think right now Johnson will be grateful to stick behind Conley to get some fuel saving in here and perhaps also some tyre preservation. In fact, he won't be pushing as hard, but he's got to be careful. In fact, he is running that warm, dirty air that comes off of the back of the Ferrari 296 of Conley in front, and that will cause those front tyres in order to become a little bit warmer as the braking zones play out, and also through these sweepers in particular. That's where you start to load the car up even more, the understeer effect that comes with that loss of downforce. And as they make their way through turns 8 and 9 right now, will Johnson feel comfortable here in terms of running together? But meanwhile, I could also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we have had off camera Norket and Guariento swap places overall. So therefore, Norket finding his way now past the GTP AM leader, and with that, that should now mean that Norket and Guariento will go about their own races quite comfortably. Although saying that, we do look back to what is Guariento right now, and I think he is feeling a bit of pressure from Doble. So however it's played out, it's not played out nicely for the Italian here, in the fact that he's lost a lot of time. In fact, he's lost 2 seconds as a result of whatever the overtake has played out in terms of the manner. And as they make their way through turn number 6 down towards 7, Guariento right now under huge pressure. Doble looking for the move here into turn number 7, as Guariento got a problem with the car because the pace has fallen out the car very rapidly indeed. As they make the way through the hairpin right now, with Foster at the back of this group as well, so the trio all pushing on here, and we jump on board with the third place man in the group as they make their way in towards turn number 10, and we're heading on to the brakes here. And as he does so, Foster just misses his braking point and Ben has to lift off the brakes to avoid the lockup. But in return, has to try and straighten the steering wheel away from what is Doble's car in order to avoid the contact. Foster doing well, but that's going to put him out of this battle for a brief moment. And Foster pushing a little bit too hard down. I think he'll be kicking himself for that one mentally, for the simple reason he didn't need to make that error, because now it puts him out of reach as Guariento and what is Doble are running close together still. And I can see some panel damage on Guariento's car. I think there might have been some contact with Norket, particularly on that right-hand side rear by looks of things, unless my eyes do deceive me. Whereas they make the way through. In fact, we do have some of you there saying in the Twitch chat there was contact between Norket and Guariento as Norket found his way on through. And particularly there, thank you to Bakewing for pointing that out to us. Indeed, you guys and girls can be our eyes and ears with regards to what we do at Miss 6. We can't bring you any replays, unfortunately, due to limitations of a replay file. But one thing right now is I think Guariento feeling some limitations on his pace here as they make their way onto their 13th tour of the circuit under race conditions, 21 minutes in. And right now, GTP AM lead is not looking comfortable anymore as they make their way through turns 1 into 2. 2, but as they do so, we've also got battles playing out further down the order as we look to our GT3 class once again, and well, that is going to be charging up the inside Kokorin. Remember, he started in the back of the field, did Kerry Kokorin due to a qualifying ban, battling side by side there with John Davies, and Davies not giving his Kokorin backs off there. What with the presence of Sherwood picking his way on through, and as they make their way past the apex, gives you such a feel of the speed they take going on through turn line up towards 10. Kokorin right now on the home soil, really the downforce racing driver here, being made to work it the hard way past the GT3 and drives the pro-in class, finding every which way to come on through as he makes his way into the braking zone here for turn number 13 and coming on through Tower Corner. With his first target with Darren Sharples, you can see there in the blazing red and black 777 for UK Sim Racing Mansell. He's behind Daniel Pace. They're fighting for P9 in the GT3 Pro class here, and they've got John Davies tucked in mind, and Davies really the odd one out of this group right now as they make the way in towards Le Mans Corner. Sharples on the inside here as they make the way on through. Meanwhile, Pace leaves the door wide open now, I think, just simply carrying a bit too much speed on the direction change from 15 into 16, and the Portuguese lets Sharples go as a result there, but now he's coming back. Will he get the run given the fact Sharples does not seem to have any pace in that portion of the straights here? But meanwhile, Pace isn't going to be given the opportunity to try and compound that because they make the way through Sunset Bend. He's got Davis all over the back of them as they come out of the corner, and John Davis right now, I'll tell you one thing, he's chosen to go racing today, and as they make the way down towards turn number 1, it's Kokorin who's going to be on the inside as Price leaving the pit lane now to take the scheduled pit stop. Kokorin up the inside here, and I think John Davis just having to let this one go and recognise the fact these GT3 Pro drivers want to fight one another, but he's not giving in yet as Kokorin over commits to the corner, and as they make it onto the... Oh, goodness me! And there's contact as Kokorin tries to switch the inside, trying to go for a bit of a dummy, but in the end making contact too late into the braking zone, and well, John Davis's race right now is into the grass at turn number 3, and the Briton is going to be absolutely fuming at that as he tries to rejoin very gradually indeed, but not the way the wrong staff driver wanted it to go whatsoever, and as he rejoins here, well, now he'll try and bring it back all to the flow, but I think that contact may really now put him a long way off the order because Nicholas Rice is the next driver up the road, but remember Rice has already taken his pit stop for the day, and Rice is eventually battling for the podium places. But meanwhile, we look back here to GT3 Pro battle for P3, and this is Moles versus Kirkland as they make the way down the Ormond Straight. The battle of the two Porsche 992s. Now, it does look as though Kirkland trying to give Moles a little bit of push along, but Moles, in fact, bringing himself gradually into the middle of the road there. You can take a centre line into Sunset, but you don't have to run all the way to left. Some drivers opt to take different lines. I think Moles there also going a bit defensive, but also I think trying to signal he's coming to the pit, which he does so there, and that releases Kirkland into P3. But we know that Moles, he's normally the master of strategy. We've seen him put some absolutely brilliant bits of strategy over the course of this season so far. And what else will be to come? As meanwhile, UK Sim Racing Bell, they make the way down towards turn number 1. It's Armstrong ahead of Beaver, and as they head into the braking zone here for the left-hander, it looks like these two running close together. They've both taken a pit stop so far, and well, now Beaver very close, and I think they're going to swap place. Indeed, Armstrong lets Beaver go, and Aaron Beaver in the Cadillac at this point signaling his intentions, which is, look, I'm faster than you, let me go. And well, I think they're both on the radio to one another and taking a bit of diplomacy on that one. But as they make the way for turn number 5 and down towards 7, well, right now Armstrong has got Ryan Davis behind him, albeit Ryan Davis being a lap up effect here as they make the way on through into the braking zone for the turn 7 hairpin. Coming on down, Ryan Davis and Tiki Simsport will be just allowed on through. Meanwhile, Sherwood battling here with Alex Hill. Hill up the inside there. Sherwood going into the hairpin. He gets that P6 done and dusted as they make the way off the brakes. And as they head on through what is turn number 7 into 8 right now. Sherwood's not quite done here in terms of being in this battle. We ride on board with the 171 driver. And as they make the way into turn number 10, Hill there, the better flow. And just look at how the Acura flows from corner to corner. It seems like medium speed and low speed. The Acura just has an edge versus the Cadillac. It does seem as though the Cadillac investing very heavily in straight line speed by default in the balance performance, and now it looks like Sherwood here just not comfortable running that close behind the Acura of Hill as they make the way into Bishop and now into 15. Onto the brakes they go, but then again Sherwood could just be back in the car slightly here trying to do some fuel saving, and also cognizant of the fact we are starting to push more and more into that pit window. And as they make their way out the corner, with Hill almost losing it, coming out wide. We're hearing the James Foster meanwhile as has to be towed to the pit. It's been towed from P3 in the GTP AM class after an instant, so that's going to upset the podium spots of the GTP AM class. That moves a Vitsland into P3, but meanwhile Sherwood up the inside here of what is Armstrong and gets very close to the back of Hill as they make their way through Sunset Bend. I think Sherwood there having to gasp on the brakes as they make the way out to turn 17 and onwards towards 1 again they go. And as they do, well, right now, strategy playing out, also battles on circuit. Take your pick, ladies and gentlemen, of the action. For the simple reason here, this race is not over by any means. And the battle between Hill and Sherwood's not over either as they make the way in towards turn number 3. And as they come on through there, with Hill almost getting it wrong, coming through turn number 1. And now in towards 5 they go. And Sherwood not really able to capitalise there as the road tapers to a very narrow line. It's really only one apiece through there. And well, as they make the way down towards the hairpin, they've still got more traffic to negotiate. Next up is Anders Meyer, your P2 GT3 Pro driver, but looking from them to what will be Stein Orsani as he makes his way in towards the final corner. He's chasing after Kerry Kokorin right now. Both of these drivers have taken. In fact, Sani's yet to take a pit stop from what I gather. Meanwhile, Kokorin is now making his way into the pit lane, so therefore Sani will be getting some clear air and some clear space on track to play with, the Norwegian driver. And can he make some magic happen? As he heads into turn number 1, we'll have to wait and see. But from them, we do look to Rudy Avitsland, and Avitsland right now does have some growing company in the form of Cy Anstey behind, but do keep in mind that these two in different classes, and Cy Anstey has taken a pit stop already, Avitsland has not, so I wouldn't be surprised if the race now Esports KTM driver may have that in mind and be thinking, okay, I need to avoid losing any time, but I also do really need to let Anstey go, so I'm not really gaining anything by keeping him here, given the fact the battle between Alexander Trevino Mikhails and Cy Anstey is not really on in the GT Pro class at the moment, and indeed they're making it happen in reality in terms of that Avitsland just letting the door stay open there into turn number 10, and Cy Anstey just gradually gliding his way on through, and they both in turn don't lose any race time really as a result. They may lose 1 or 2 tenths, but in the relative spectrum of things, it's not worth that too much in terms of time as they make their way down towards turn number 15. But as they do so, in towards the next braking zone they'll go. We look back to it, Davies, Hill and Sherwood as they make their way through turn number 1. This three-way battle for what is P5 in the GTP Pro class here, and Sherwood still a little bit further back compared to where he used to be on Hill. I think here Sherwood just recognised the fact there's a long way to go in terms of this opening stint still. Indeed, we have seen GTP drivers go a whole 50 minutes. That's 5-0, not 1-5, before they come into the pit lane, and therefore right now we could be looking at some sizable overcuts being set up by Davies, Hill and Sherwood. We do know that typically TQ Supersport like to mix up their strategies from race to race. Meanwhile, ProTech Motorsport, again, they do seem to be a very strong strategy. We know Moles has pulled us some absolutely miraculous pieces of strategy. You only need to look back at what was round number 2 at Fuji in terms of how he pulled off the miracle and the magic in the Audi R8 in the GT3 Pro class. But right now Sherwood here in the chase, and I think something's got to give soon in terms of why these 3 drivers will need to come into the pits to try and make an alternative strategy work. But as we say hello there to Dawson at 1701 in the Twitch chat, that's Andrew Dawson, I do believe. Well, right now, good evening to you, Mr. Dawson, and we also say hello there to Sherwood, who says that ProTech things there, I think in relation to a little bit of strategy going on in amongst the team. And well, from them we do look to your race leader here as he makes his way across the timeline, and right now Andrew Dawson just leading the way here as we see in the rear of the picture gradually make his way through to the camera shot. Joshua Wilson there, but that gap continues to open up now, 8.6 seconds, and Dawson does seem to be in control here for what will be his first win of the season if it carries on. We've still got half the race to go, ladies and gentlemen, and with that anything can happen before it's all said and done. And well, speaking of anything that can happen, we do have still Austin William Campbell, who's broken away from Joe Newman over the last couple of laps. Gap now up to 3.5 seconds. I think Newman may have been caught with some traffic a bit unfavourably compared to William Campbell. Or perhaps a mistake, but either way, the 97 driver having to back off the battle for the time being. But then again, we do know that Empire Motorsport right now, they don't give up on a fight, and Newman in particular, who really has been punching hard for podiums all season long, and right now he won't be wanting to be denied another podium here today, albeit will the Acura from Symphony of William Campbell say otherwise as he makes his way up towards turn number 8, and Newman all over the shop there in terms of coming out the corner. I don't think he got the best run out the corner. A bit of power oversteer caused him to lose position, but meanwhile, losing his bumper and losing places into the wall. That's at turn number 7 under braking. That's Ryan Davies, and the 85 driver, the car's up in the air on the front end as well. I'm not quite sure what's led to that, but Ryan Davies' race is over in terms of battling for that P5 at the moment. Hill and Sherwood are still going strong, but Ryan Davies into the wall there. It must have been under braking, perhaps a lockup or contact with another driver. I'm not seeing any data to suggest there has been a contact with another driver, or another driver's gone off at the same point on the circuit. But Hill right now will be given a bit of a breather, and Sherwood, who is going to be unleashed here onto the TQ Simsport corporate driver, and immediately I think Sherwood's responding to this because he's charging that gap down. The gap's now down to 8 tenths compared to where it was just 1.5 seconds in that relative train before Ryan Davies had his instant, and now Sherwood makes his way out of turn turn number 16. He's attacking it. I think he feels like he could get this P5 immediately, and he's not going to let it go as they make their way down the Allman Straight. In front of them, they have got a little bit of traffic in the form of Aaron Beaver, P5 GTP and driver, but keeping in mind the strategies. And well, already Hill got a bunch of traffic, and now Sherwood has the traffic fall the opposite way for him as Connie tries to steer clear of the GTP drivers. So what works out at 1 month for Sherwood comes back to bite him before he can even get the throttle down the exit of Sunset Bend. And right now, James Connie will be just saying, well, I'm just trying to stay out of the way of everybody. And I think Hill and Sherwood will both be muttering under their breath with regards to how that played out. But then again, they've all survived it, and well, nobody doing anything untoward there. There's the multi-class racing factor immediately kicking in what looked to be a golden opportunity for Sherwood. Sonny immediately came back to be a golden opportunity for Hill to reopen that gap as they make their way down towards the hairpin. And as they do so, will Darren Orkett, meanwhile, trying to pick up another driver here on his Crusader in the back of the field. And the Racing Forces driver, P8 GTP Pro at the moment. His next target will be P7, and that's held by Trina McCalson. You can see in front on the right, your picture, Orkett looking up the inside there under braking. They go all in here, and it's going to be Trina McCalson who tries to hold it, but he's going to go a bit wide there, a little bit of rub between the two of them. Then Trina McCalson does hold on for now. Orkett flashes his lights out, I think feeling as though he had the right to line there, but Trina McCalson in return, I think just getting the defence off very nicely indeed. And the 86 driver now having to try and go once again here, albeit it's not going to be too favourable as he has to go around the outside of what is their base. They make the way on through turn 11 into 13, but into Tau they go, and as they do so, Norket definitely the faster driver of the two. You can see that in the body language of the cars and the lap times that he's accrued over the last 3-4 laps. He has been stripping half a second out of Trina McCalson lap on lap, but now the thing about this is it's one thing to catch, it's another thing to pass. The late great Murray Walker once said, and will Norket staying very close here as they come through Le Mans. This could be the run he needs. In the factory, Council, a slightly compromised exit line there, but he does get the better run, and keep in mind they're both in the Cadillac as well, so they've both got the straight line speed. This is going to come down to the toe and how much battery Norket wants to use as he makes his way in towards the corner looking for it here. He's going to come from very far back, and he's going to try and make this a reality, but in the end just trying to tease out, and they're trying to get Trina McCalson to go deep. They come on through, he gets a much better run off the corner. It's going to be a drag race here up towards turn number 1. They make the way across the line. It's going to be Norket on the outside, Trina McCalson on the inside into the opening left-hander. As they come through, Trina McCalson there gets the elbows out, making sure to make his car as wide as possible without contact. Norket there still trying to settle the run into 3 now. Can he find it? No, he can't. He's made to wait, but the traffic's going to continue to fall unfavourably for Trina McCalson as he's now got John Davis right in front and coming through turn number 5. Davis just simply hugs the inside there of turn number 6. McCalson will go around the outside, the same for Norket, and well, Norket's going to be as close as he dares to dream to be to do so if he wants to make this move happen. But Trina McCalson defending hard here, onto the brakes they go, in towards turn number 7, around the outside. Norket's going to try and do what Trina McCalson did to him last time around, and as they make the way out of the corner, well, right now, side by side they exit, into Fangio they go. It's not over yet, it's a drag race up towards Cunningham, and in the end, Norket does find his way through. It's a brilliant battle in action between the two of them. Defends on the inside into 10, gets it up top and break it, but he's going to have to park it on the apex, coming for 11 if he wants to hold his position. But Trina McCalson was looking for the run back there, Billion can't quite find it, and that is the way it plays out between them. But meanwhile, as Norket runs a bit wide, we have had a pit stop for your GTP AM leader of Salvatore Guariento. He's come from the lead of the class now down to P4. 40 seconds is the gap between himself and John Doble. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to play out on strategy, because Doble stayed out, and meanwhile Rudy Witzland has stayed out. But meanwhile, the driver who's leapt ahead of Guariento by 10 seconds, and I would presume that might have something to do with the pit stop time, in the fact that, well, goodness me, Larson's pit stop time was only 9.5 seconds. Guariento's time in terms of stationary, 22.5. So Larson right now has leapt leaps and bounds ahead, and I think that might be some damage that Guariento had on the car that he's had to have repaired, plus also perhaps a different strategy here. But Larson right now controlling this, and will arguably on course to be your GTP AM leader and winner today when all is said and done, presuming things carry on as they are. But as they make the way up towards what is turn number 15, 16 right now, Larson will know he's got to take this one lap at a time, one corner at a time, because nothing is certain here until that checker flag has fallen. And meanwhile, looking back here to Darren Sharples versus Ryan Moles, with Moles having that early pit stop, and Sharples right behind him right now as they make their way through. Keep in mind that Darren Sharple started from the pit lane when we went green flag racing in P9 currently for GT3 Pro, and what I do believe is awaiting his first pit stop of the day, unless I'm mistaken. That's what the data suggests to be at the moment in the commentary booth. But then again, as the 777 driver makes his way on through the right-hand here, trying to hug the rear of Moles right now. But I can tell you one thing, that Moles is behind Kirkland with how the pit stops are played out, and the gap between Moles and Kirkland is 9, well in fact it's 8 seconds there when we do the mathematics. And well, with that, it does mean that Moles has lost a sizable portion of time versus Kirkland. And speaking of Kirtland here, he is the Downforce Racing driver who's had a much better run of the strategy so far, but otherwise the top 6 in the GT3 Pro class have yet to pit. And as soon as I say that, Adrian Kukulis makes his way past my commentator booth window and into the pit lane, so he decides to buck the trend. And as they make their way down the Allman Straight here, well, where will Kukulis fit into this? Mark Johnson comes in from the lead of the GT3 AM class, and well, keeping in mind, the man he'll be battling with is Mark Collicott and also James Conley. They were close together. Collicott was ahead, and Collicott has had his pit stop. Nicholas Rice, meanwhile, is in fact ahead of Collicott, so that's happened off camera with regards to the pit stops. The Dirty Rice Racing driver has leapt ahead and got a 3-second advantage, albeit as we look back, there is Collicott. He is closing fast in the fact he has taken 2 attempts out on the previous lap. What will it be this time around? Johnson's still being serviced at the moment. We are keeping our eyes on it. He should be at the end of his pit stop shortly, given the fact he has been stationary, and indeed he's just finished 23.12 seconds stationary time for Johnson. Rice comes on through to take what will be the lead of the GT3 AM class here. This is track position and strategic lead. Meanwhile, Collicott comes on through to take P2. Johnson will come out P3 as John Davis comes into the pit from P4. That's going to be a long way down the order. So then James Conley will be P4 in the GT3 AM class, and it will be Christopher Bates who is on course here for potential his first top 5 of the season in the GT3 AM class. And we just got to keep it calm all the way to the end now, and Bates will definitely be on course, standing the very colourful liveried RGB racing machine. Indeed, 10 out of 10 there for the mix of colours on the Porsche 9 and 2, and I do think Tiki Simsport have got their rivalry on the grid in terms of a colourful livery, as he does have Jack Barker chase him down. And will the Audi R8 privateer here in the 163 on the last lap, he was the best part of 8/10 of a second quicker compared to Bates. Now, was there traffic in amongst that? Of course, that's the big conundrum we always have to ask when we do see a massive lap time delta. As Barker makes his way through Big Bend here, he is chasing down Bates, no question about it. And Barker trying to make it back-to-back top 5s after Le Mans on his debut. Well, can he do that? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, I think he's feeling confident he may be able to get this done. Albeit that Audi does have a knack for burning the tyres, particularly those rear tyres towards the end, and he'll need to manage those with the number of corners around here. But you do have those sweepers which do light the tyres up, particularly the outside tyre, the rear outside tyre. When you've got the power going through it as well, it just does hurt the compound. But meanwhile, looking up from Barker, we look back up into the GTP class, and in particular we look to what is John Doble here in a very lonely lead at the moment of the GPM class, and well, Guariento. And so does pit stop Larson as well. Doe with the Easton corporate driver. Surely he's going to be in the pit soon as he makes his way out the corner, but he decides to carry on here. And could we see the 77 driver return to the top step? It's been some time since we've seen Doble up there, and as he makes his way in towards turn number 1. Well, right now the 77 driver here doing everything in his power to try and make the strategy work for the overcut here, to leap his way into what will be a win today. But then again, it's easier said than done. But the lap times right now of Larson versus Doble, it is Larson who's the faster of the two of them. Last lap 4/10, and as Larson comes on through the cross line this time, what will it be by relative comparison? We crosses the line, and it is going to be this time around Doble is the faster of the two by the best part of 6/10, so this still could happen, to be fair. We'll have to wait and see. But the 306 right here of Larson, well, if he has decided to go very short on fuel and trying to fuel save his way to victory, it's going to gradually see his gap and his advantage cut down. But the point being, Larson will take track position. The track position around here, we have seen already, is very powerful at Sebring as he makes his way through turn number 6. As he makes his way in towards turn number 7 very shortly. We do say hello there to Pit Party GG. This is Lightning McQueen that taught me pitting ears for the week, so therefore I think in respect to the fact a number of drivers opted to spend as long as possible away from the pit lane are completely understandable. And as we do look from David Larson back up to Sam Sherwood, who comes into the pit lane for his scheduled stop for today, will the Protect Motorsport driver make his way down pit row, and as he does so, the 171's going to fall a lot further back. But do keep in mind, our top 8 in the GTP Pro class have yet to pit, so therefore right now Sherwood could be gaining advantage on Hill, given the fact that Alex Hill's still out then. It was Hill versus Sherwood before Sherwood made his way into the pits. We'll keep our eyes on that. Meanwhile, in the GT3 Pro category, we have got Anders Meyer making his way down the pit lane exit. Herodotus Jatatas, meanwhile, coming on through, and Jatatas made his way in towards turn 1. This is going to be close, but the Over Limit Racing driver will retake the lead of the GT3 Pro class, but behind him there is Anders Meyer, and the gap between them is only in the end what is half a second, if that's. Anders Meyer making the strategy work as we ride on board and look back from the Over Limit Racing driver of Jatatas, but Jatatas, by going early on that pit stop and indeed taking an extra 1.5 seconds in the pits, I think that may have been for an extra tyre change, alternatively for a bit more fuel to go in the car, but he's made it work. But now Meyer is right there with him, and once again we're in one of these scenarios whereby drivers are trying everything they can at the 56 Porsche 992, but the thing is, whether it be on strategy or alternative race pace, they just cannot find a way to get Jatatas to wheel, and that has been the theme of the season. He's always been a couple of attempts ahead, even on strategy when it's mattered most, and as they make their way out towards turn number 10, into the braking zone here, with Myra immediately trying to go on the offensive in that BMW M4. We know it's very quick when it comes out of the pits. It doesn't require too much time to get itself back up to temperature, but as they make their way in towards turn number 13, Jatatas right now, the Porsche definitely is up to temperature, and the 56 doing everything in its power here to try and hold on to make it another win. Meanwhile, behind in the battle for P3 in the GT3 Pro class, it's Kirtland versus Cox, and into the braking zone they go for turn number 13 there, through Tower, and Cox all over the back of his fellow Porsche driver. They've got Ryan Moles only 8 seconds back, and Moles is closing on these two very quickly as they make their way in towards turn number 15. Now as they make their way through the right into left, Cox pushing hard right now. He's got Sight Anstey going up the inside of him in towards turn number 16 at Lamont corner. The GTP Pro driver making his way through past Cox, albeit Cox opened them door up very nicely, and therefore just simply able to gain rather than lose out. And as they power the way down Ullman, again you can notice the difference here in the fact that it does seem as though Cox at this point in the race just a little bit more switched on with the pace of the car. Kirtland, to be fair, no slouch, but it just seems as though Kirtland not having the balance of the car. As you can see, the rear kicks out, and Kirtland power oversteer there on the apex, almost hits the wall. There's contact between Cox and Kirtland then sent to the wall, and I think with that Cox would argue I'd know where to go and I couldn't react in time. Kirtland right now won't be best pleased with that, and Ryan Moles coming up behind it, and Moles looking to move into P4 as they head in towards turn number 1, and Moles comes into the braking zone here to see a wounded Chris Kirtland. He'll know that something's gone wrong for the 112. He won't know quite what's gone wrong, but Chris Kirtland there having a disastrous moment, and the Downforce Racing driver, it's all starting to end up in tears, albeit it's all over the back of Moles here. Can he make a resurgence from P4? We'll have to wait and see as he comes out of what is their turn at number 5. Well, Kirtland right now is not going to give in, there's no doubts about it. As they head in towards turn number 7, we'll have to wait and see whether Moles feels the pressure needs to defend. I don't think he does. I think he'll hold race in line here, knowing that right now he's going to be very comfortable. Kirtland would have to send it from very far back, and Dick Kirtland goes a bit deep there, and that's going to cause the gap to open up even more so. But meanwhile, from them, we look to the lead of the GTP AM class, and it's not said and done. Here's got a car off the road there, and well, that's David Larson, as I was just about to say. Rudy Avitz and David Larson closing on him. Well, then I'm going to be made to wash my mouth out with soap for the simple reason that Larson into the wall, going into Tower, well, not into Tower, but into turn number 10 almost, and the 306 driver, he's still technically leading in the GPM class when you consider strategy, because Avitz has yet to appear, but Larson there, now that is going to be an absolute spine chiller in the fact that Britain making that error, and well, will that have picked up any damage to the car as he makes his way through turn number 16? And when we say damage, any damage that's going to have a noticeable difference in how the car behaves, or will the accurate drive for Simon Eastwood be able to carry on with Oriento? We'll now find that gap has come down by a couple of seconds, and that will give him confidence. Meanwhile, looking from them back to the GT3 Pro lead battle. This is Jatatas versus Myra, and Myra is much closer now as they make their way onto their first flying lap together after the end of the pit stop for Myra, and as they make their way through turn number 1 and in towards turn number 3, well, we can see Anders Meyer going onto the brakes here, and right now absolutely breathing down the neck of the Porsche 992 driver as they head in towards turn number 5. And with Halloween coming up, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure right now the over limit racing driver won't be looking over his shoulder through fear of what's behind him. It's not Slenderman, it's Anders Bauer instead. And right now the BMW M4 driver absolutely glued to the back of the Porsche 992, and with two German machines, albeit of different marks, as they make their way in towards turn number 7. One's got all the cornering capabilities, that's the Porsche, and meanwhile one's got all the power on the accelerator, plus also the stability over the curves, and that's the BMW. And as they are woven in between by what is there, Andrew Dawson, your overall leader, who right now shows no signs of wanting to pit at any point in time. And then Foster decides to poke his head into the mix. The GTP and P7 driver, right now Anders Bauer trying to size up a move here for the win in the GT3 Pro Class today, but can he, or will Joe Tartas just stay one step ahead as they make their way through turn number 13? And we'll have to wait to see, but as they head in towards turn number 15, meanwhile in that battle between Barker and Bates, as they make their way down towards turn number 3. This is the battle for P5 in the GT3 AM class, and with Barker right now, he's close to Bates, but he's not quite there just yet, and having to be respectful of the GTPs picking their way through, and they in turn respecting this battle is going on. But right now Barker continuing this chase here as they make their way through turn at number 6 and in towards 7, as he's reliably informing the Twitch chat. This has been a chase that's been ongoing since the very start of the race. Remember, Bates did gain 2 places at the start in the GT3 AM class into P5 over the course of the open lap, and one of those places was that of Barker as they make their way out of the turn 7 hairpin. But as they do so and make their way onwards now towards turn number 10, Andrew Dawson into the pit lane. Indeed, here he comes down pit lane, and number 9 driver here deciding enough's enough with a 17.5 second advantage built up of Joshua Wilson. Will Wilson stay out there? No, he comes into the pits as well, and well, I think Hill is not going to be close enough to try and lead a lap of this race, given that Dawson's already in his pit box, and the advantage was 39 seconds. As they made their way down towards turn number 17, we can see in the Twitch chat there, number you debating what happened in terms of that contact between what was Kirtland and Cox in terms of who the onus was on for the instant. But as Hill makes his way into the pit lane from P3 in the GTP Pro Class, meanwhile making his way out of the pit lane here to go on and retake the lead, and with it essentially he's going to try and go for a grand slam here today. Andrew Dawson makes his way back out here with only 12 minutes as the final lap to go, and right now that first GTP Pro win of the season is looking very much on the cards, albeit he's just got to keep it pointed in a straight line as he almost gets it slightly wrong. They're coming through turn number 3, and I think that's been the only fault he's made today, if that. But meanwhile, the two drivers here are absolutely still battling on. Norket versus what is Chimino Mikkelsen, and as they make the way through turn number 16, Norket running wide there, and Darren Norket really being made to push every step of the way here. And I can tell you one thing, ever since Norket's closed up to the back, it seems that the pace has just fallen out of the car, and the final factor is that Chimino Mikkelsen has just found a way to make his own Cadillac absolutely obstinately wide. And that's credit to Norwegian driver, albeit as they come out of the corner, this is going to be the best opportunity Norket's going to get, with the fact Chimino Mikkelsen a poor run out of Sunset, and as they make their way into turn number 1, and we're right now Norket looking all the way around the outside, but Chimino Mikkelsen defends on the inside. It's going to be too wide as they clear the apex. Up towards turn number 3 they go, onto the anchors they'll both battle, and Chimino Mikkelsen there trying to brake as late as possible. Norket just doesn't have enough on the brakes in order to get it done, and Chimino Mikkelsen right now doing an absolutely sensational job to hold into this P8. I can tell you that right now it may only be P8, but to him every point is precious in the championship. But you can understand why as they make their way down towards turn number 7. As they head in towards this braking zone, we've got a lock up there for Darryl Norket. Meanwhile, just a bit further down the order, Joshua Pratt now chasing down Adrian Kukulas for what will be P6 of the GT3 Pro category as they make their way in towards turn number 17, and Pratt closing here, and in fact has closed a little bit over the last couple of laps, not by too much, a couple of attempts a lap, but those attempts add up rather rapidly as they make their way out of Sunset Bend. Pratt, they're getting a better run off the corner, looking to the inside initially, but Kukulas now puts the car in the middle of the road, goes to fence on the inside. I think Pratt will be a little bit annoyed that he didn't go for the inside move, and in fact in the end they swap places down. I think Kukulas perhaps feeling as though in fact it's time to let it go and focus on that P7. Perhaps the pace not quite there for Kukulas, he's noticed it and now deciding just to go for the guaranteed points rather than gambling and battling too hard, given the fact that Eric Rosev is only 5 seconds behind, and Rosev is closing quickly on the pair of them. The last lap Rosev did take 4 attempts out of them, he's been doing that at a good rate of knots over the last 3 laps. As they make their way through what is the big bend there. Meanwhile, we look back to Chimino Mikkelsen versus Norket, and this time Norket getting a bit closer into Sunset, almost getting a nose alongside, not quite able to do so there. You've got to be very careful when you try to put a nose alongside into Sunset Bend. giving the way the corner runs on through, but now Norket looks back to the outside once more as they made the way on through, and again it's side by side, but Norket brings it back slightly this time, decides to go for a cutback on the exit, going out towards turn number 3, but again he just doesn't have the final 5%, and that's the problem with Trina McCallison, really showing just how stubborn he can be, as meanwhile into the pits here for an unexpected second stop of the day, it's David Larson. He's in from what's the lead of the GTP AM class, and now Salvatore Goriento goes on through to retake the lead of the class with only 9 minutes left on the clock, and Goriento, I don't think he's going to quite believe it after what happened earlier on in the race, and right now only 9 minutes left, and can he hold on to bring home what will be back-to-back wins and a huge bundle of points in his championship aspirations as he makes his way through the corner. Meanwhile, not to forget the battle between Trina McCallison and Norket, we cut back to it side by side into turn 10 they go, and as they make the way through 11, again McCallison holding on as they come in towards 13 through the right-hander, and will the number 6 driver here. Right now, I can tell you one thing, whilst we don't have a driver of the day vote, ladies and gentlemen, if you were to vote for your driver of the day, I can imagine some of you will be putting Alexander Trina McCallison right up there for the simple reason he's been held off by the fastest drivers in the GTP Pro class behind him at lap after lap, and doing it absolutely pinpoint precise and picture perfect as he makes his way out of Le Mans corner, but as he does so, and onwards down the back straight they go, with James Connolly there just steering clear in the Ferrari 296 is left behind on the right hand side of your picture, and in towards Sunset they go this time for what will be for them, I do believe, the 29th time of asking. As they clear the right-hander, well, Trina McCallison goes very deep, and that's going to give Norket a much better start to this run, albeit McCallison just holds the inside. He says, okay, right, I know you're going to be there, and we've done this multiple times now, and what can Norket do and bring differently to the table this time? Well, the answer is nothing by the looks of things. In fact, he oversteps the corner slightly and follows McCallison on through it towards turn number 3, but from them, ladies and gentlemen, we do take a look to what is Kukulis versus Rosev, and in fact, I do believe, with that, not Kukulis versus Rosev, my apologies, it's Pratt versus Kukulis, and well, Kukulis all over the back of Joshua Pratt after letting the place go down the start finish straight, and it looks like in fact Kukulis right now may be the faster driver of the two of them as they head in towards Tower Corner here, or if not, he's definitely harassing and really pushing on at Pratt and trying to get him to go a little bit faster here, but from them, we do look back to the Trina McCallison versus Norket battle, the closest battle of the circuit right now, and it's going to be Norket up the inside this time as they make the way through what is that, I do believe, not Tower Corner, that's through turn number 10, and again, Norket gets alongside, flashing his lights there. I'm not too pleased with the way he's been held off, but right now Trina McCallison places the car every time in the right place, and the gap opens up to 8 tenths once again. The Racing Lab Esports Norza driver definitely earning those points for 8th place today in the class, but as he does so, and that battle subsides for a brief moment, well, we can confirm that Pratt and Kukulis are now separated by 1.5 seconds. With that 1.1 seconds, we should correct ourselves there, so I think there's been a bit of an error for Kukulis, or traffic has intervened, but meanwhile, one driver who's got a gap on the field now growing up to 21 seconds. It's Andrew Dawson, the Effect Simulations Club Sport driver, is still just running away with this and just previously set the fastest lap of the race. In fact, last lap it was a 43.12 to the nearest 100th, and right now Dawson, he is going for perfection here today, and will credit where it's due in the fact that nobody else is matching on pace. In fact, everybody else lapping for the most part in the 44s, albeit Joe Newman has set a 43.9 earlier on in this race, but right now Dawson is the only GTP lapping in the 43s, and he is showing no signs of stopping anytime soon as he makes his way down the back straight here. But as he does so, meanwhile, we look from him to what is Nicholas Rice, your leader in the GT3 AM class, and well, he has got Mark Collicott, who is closing. It's only a 10th and a half a lap so far. A number of laps left, and the gap is 3.5 seconds. I think Rice will feel safe versus Collicott, and the strategy has worked a dream today for Rice as Collicott makes his way out turn number 7. And from what I'm gathering, from what I can see in the Twitch chat, but also from taking a look from some mentions from drivers, is the fact that this has really come down today in the GT3 category in particular of whether you've gambled and taken an extra tyre in the pits, which was worth an extra 6 seconds in the pit lane or not. And those who have, I think, have really had that come back to bite them today in the fact they've lost a lot of time through that extra 6 seconds, and it's not time that's being made up in terms of that extra tyre life being available. They're not able to push it as much, and that is why Rice has been able to leapfrog Collicott by the best part of 7 seconds in the pit lane. And well, the difference could not be more visible here as Collicott tries to chase on with Mark Johnson a further 8 seconds back. And right now the UK Sim Racing Mansell driver Well, he's broken clear of James Conley. He's got a nice 14-second gap, and Johnson here will be on course for his first podium of the season, and will definitely be made to work for it every step of the way. But as he does so, meanwhile, we are hearing, and then the battle between Bates and Barker, will these two still in what is a little bit of a deadlock. 7.5 tenths is the gap here, and Barker right now, he just can't quite seem to find a way to get under the skin of Bates to get close enough to go on the offensive here. In fact, last lap he was half a second faster, but I think this is more an indication of where traffic is causing that gap to open and close each and every time. But meanwhile, from them, we have had oh goodness me, and we've had a huge instant for Salvatore Guariento. Oh goodness me, that's at Sunset Bend, and the Miro.io driver with only 5 minutes left on the clock, if that, it's all gone to tears for the Italian who was looking to make it 2 in a row, and it's John Doble who goes on to lead the GT3 AM class here in the closing stage of this race at Sebring, as he almost ends up in the back of what is that I do believe Darren Sharples, albeit in the end backs off enough, and Doble right now we feel as though don't do anything silly here, you're on course for your first win of the season. As he makes his way in towards turn number 3, I can tell you one thing right now, it's a late surprise and not a good one to be certain of it, but John Doble right now, as he tries to pick his way past GT3 traffic, the TU Sport Cobra driver, winding his way on through Big Bend, and I don't think he's going to quite believe it. I think Greg Senhai is going to be on the radio, Team Brinsport, TU Sport, saying to John right now, just focus on getting the cars in, everybody's making mistakes, there's a lock up there from Doble. Well, could something happen to him before all is over? We'll have to wait and see, but right now it is a disastrous bit of drama from the Guarientos in the pit lane. They're working on the car as quickly as possible at Miro.io, but it looks though right now it's going to put him a long way down the order, I suspect, probably all the way down to P5 as minimum, if not P6. We'll have to wait and see. But meanwhile, looking back to the battle between Trina Mikkelsen and Darren Norquette, this still is raging on despite everything else playing out around us. And as we can say, Trina Mikkelsen right now, a bit of power oversteered there, and that error is going to cost him the run here on the start finish straight. It's going to be Norquette who finally does get a nose ahead down towards turn number 1. But again, he's on the outside. Trina Mikkelsen here, he has to yield. It's been a long time coming, but in the end, Norquette has found his way past, albeit Trina Mikkelsen, credits where it's due, has kept Norquette behind him for the best part of what has been 25 minutes of racing. And well, right now, I can imagine Norquette's going to be feeling as though it has been a P8 that has been earned the hard way and then some. But as the drivers make the way on through, we do look from them towards what will be a little bit further down the order, and in particular I do believe we'll be looking to what is, well, we do look to Joshua Pratt here as he makes his way on through turn number 6 up towards 7. He goes down in towards the hairpin braking zone, and Pratt right now feeling quite comfortable in number 88 machine, trying to chase after Kirtland, trying to keep Kukulis at bay. So these two both really pushing one another to the limit, although it does look as though Pratt here right now feeling a bit safe. And I have had confirmation, ladies and gents, but I think Guariento himself in the Twitch chat that the repair work to the car is going to take the best part of 15 minutes, so Guariento will not be rejoining this race, and it will mean he'll finish last of the runners in the GTP AM class, and that is the most horrendous way to end today. Indeed, it is Halloween season, there's plenty of horror to go around, ladies and gentlemen, but I don't think that's what he thought when he thinks of Halloween, and it's all gone very, very wrong for Guariento off camera. But meanwhile, on camera, we look here to Aldous Chitatis for over limit racing, and right now, still holding on versus Anders Murray. The gap is 1.7 seconds. It has opened up over the last 6 laps, little by little, but Anders Murray is still pushing on, and that last lap, the BMW M4 Race Lab Esports Motor driver closed the gap back down by 4 tenths, so it's not over yet. Indeed, it could just be a small mistake that ends it all in a battle. But as he makes his way in towards turn at number 3 here, he'll know that win is only a little distance away, but that little distance will feel like a mile given how fast Chitatis has been all day today and how hard he's been made to work and stay in that lead. But Myra, to be fair, has kept him honest every yard, every inch. But meanwhile, this man, as he makes his way down the start of the straight, will go into a final lap as the white flag flames, and it's Andrew Dawes who takes everybody onto in the GTP class, a 35th and final lap here. And well, right now he's got plenty of traffic ahead of him, but he's got a 22.5 second gap to play with to Wilson, and he'll know that he doesn't need to do anything spectacular. He just needs to get this car home. He's got the fastest lap in the bag, he's got the pole position lap, he's led every lap of this race, and he's just got to get it home now to bring home his first win of the season. And meanwhile, whilst he does so, Nicholas Rice, the Dirty Rice Racing driver from the United States of America. He's holding on here, not too long to go as he makes his way down towards turn number 7. 2.6 seconds out is the gap to Collicott, who's chasing behind, and you can see that gap articulated here on your screen. The AO Racer East DCW Racing driver is stripping time out, but it's not enough here, and indeed he needs at least 5 more laps to try and be within attacking distance. And as he makes his way up towards what will be turn number 10, well, right now Collicott throwing everything at this, but I don't think it's going to be enough at the end of the day unless Rice makes an error right at the end. And meanwhile, we then look to John Doble, who right now not making any errors as he makes his way through turn number 13 and down towards Bishop he goes. And the GTP AM leader, it's looking comfortable, it's looking in control, and he's only a few quarters away from finishing his race, a lap down off of the leader. Speaking of whom, as he charges his way down the Ullman Straight here, it has been a different day today. Last week it was the battle with Busby coming out on top in the battle of the effect simulations drivers to the 1, 2, 3. But as he makes his way through the final corner, it's been a difficult day for Busby, but it's been an absolute day of dominance from Andrew Dawson, who takes the checker flag for effect simulations for his first win of the season in the GTP Pro class. It will then be shortly after what will be John Doble, who comes to line in the GTP AM class, your winner for Team Sport Cobra, his first win of the season for the Canadian. And then we will have after him coming on through to take the GT3 AM win on a superb piece of strategy. He knows it, he's done it. It's Dirty Rice Races, Nicholas Rice who wins by 2.5 seconds ahead of Mark Collicott. We saw Wilson coming on through to take P2 in the GTP Pro class. And then shortly, ladies and gentlemen, we will have your third place GTP Pro winner of what we Austin William Campbell, or third place finisher I should say, ahead of Joe Newman in the end by 3 seconds as they all make the way on through. We've had a lot of drives going through already, so we may have missed a couple of podium finishers. David Larson has also finished his race, it should be said. But meanwhile, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, in that ongoing battle for the win in the GT3 Pro class, and we're going to stay with this to the end, because there's Jotatas and then behind him is Anders Myra, but the gap is falling away in the favour of Jotatas as he comes on through. Myra right now trying to push the Race Lab Esports Moser BMW M4 as much as he possibly can as he comes in towards what will be turn number 16. For Anders Myra, I don't think there's enough left. I think he's thrown everything at this, but he's been pushed to his limit. He's been stress tested and the stress has gotten the better of him. But meanwhile, this is the man. He may race to over limit the racing, but he's yet to be pushed beyond his limit. For as he comes on through the final corner, it's going to be a return to winning ways for Aldous Jotatas. The Lithuanian takes the win. It's the checker flag that waves for the number 56 Porsche 992, and just behind him in the end by 5 seconds, I think running out of fuel on the line perhaps, it'll be Anders Meyer for Race Lab Esports Moser, your runner-up in the GT3 Pro category. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race we have had here today. And well, we didn't talk too much about him when he crossed line because we couldn't quite get everybody across line, but David Larson, your P2 GTP AM driver, and how right now he must be regretting that mistake earlier going into what was turn number 10 at Cunningham Corner, because that mistake cost him severely, plus also an instant earlier on in the race and what could have been a potential win the GTP AM class after the late reversal fortunes for Guariento. But John Doble in the end coming on through your victor in that class, and Larson having to settle for second, and a surprise P3 for Rudy Avitzland, who finished a further 5 seconds behind. But what a race from lights out to checker flag. Sebring always known to deliver fantastic races, there's no doubt about it. But in the end, we got to see some fantastic battles, not just at the front of the field, but also in the mid-pack. James Conley in the end missed out on the podium in the GT3 AM category versus his sister team driver Mark Johnson, but still keeping Bates at bay. And in the battle of Barker and Bates, I can tell you it was Bates who came out on top in the end by what was 8 tenths. Barker could stay within 7 to 8 tenths, but he couldn't find a way of breaking that gap down and trying to find the move. But still a great battle between them, and sometimes that's what it's all about. Two drivers pushing each other, the gap stays stationary, and it's about who flinches first. But today neither of them did, and Bates was able to bring that P5 in the GT3 AM class ahead of Jack Barker. But as all our drivers conclude their cool down laps and make their way into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards inquiries, and here they are. So after a sensational 60 minutes of racing in round number 6 of the UK Sim Racing GT3-GTP Multiclass League Season 1, hosted on iRacing and brought to you on the UK Sim Racing at Twitch channel at twitch.tv/UK Sim Racing today, Andrew Dawson taking a dominant drive to victory for Effect Simulations Club Sport there overall and the GTP Pro class ahead of Effect Simulations Joshua G. Wilson. It's a 1-2 for Effect Simulations. The gap between 21.5 seconds and a further was 11.5 seconds to Austin William Campbell, who once again finds himself on the podium for Symphony Esports and another solid drive for the 555 driver. Joe Newman just missed out on the podium after a brilliant opening half-an-hour battle for Empire Motorsport with Austin William Campbell, but in the end the gap between the two and 3 seconds, and that's where it stayed for the remainder of the race. And then Alex Hill for Tiki Simsport Corporate completing the top 5 overall, a further what was 11 seconds behind. Sam Sherwood P6 and a battling P6 for ProTech Motorsport ahead of Cy Anthony in the end, with Daryl Norket P8 there for Racing at Forces ahead of Alexander Tremino McCallison, who really proved to be the fly in the ointment every step of the way. But what a battle between them for P8, no doubt about it. And then John Dowell P10 overall, but for him winner in the GTP AM class, and the Tiki Simsport Corporate driver taking his first class win of the season, 1 lap down overall, but he will be absolutely ecstatic about that ahead of David Larson at P2 in the class, P11 overall, best the rest for what was Symphony Esports there. In an unfortunate day today for Larson, but still the podium points will definitely be welcomed. Rudy Vitzner, P12, a surprise third place in the GTP AM class, and then completing the GTP AM podium of Double Larson and the Vitzler, and the Race Lab Esports KTM driver really demonstrating a point, which is never give up, stay in the race all the way to the end for the simple reason you never know what can happen, and today it was a P3, a deserved P3 there for the 87 driver, and then to round off the top 15 there, Ryan Davies ahead of Aaron Beaver with Rob Armstrong P15. A difficult day for Rob Armstrong and a difficult day for James Foster as well. The late error cost him dear in that battle for what was the GTP AM podium. Indeed, he was battling hard there all the way through, but the Race Series DCW Racing driver had to be towed to the pits midway through, and then finishing 4 laps down the end with that late error that cost him the win in the GTP AM class at Sunset Bend. Salvatore Guarienta, the Muriel.io driver, will be absolutely fuming. Indeed, I wouldn't be surprised there's a few tears down the paddock, but still he'll pick himself back up and get ready to go racing once again as of the next round. And then we're coming on to our GT3s overall. As we can see, Haroldas Jatatis, your GT3 overall and pro winner there for Over Limit Racing, head of Anders Meyer in their back and forth in the second half of the race. No doubt about it, they pushed each other to the limit, but it was the Over Limit driver who found victory in the end ahead of Racing Lab Esport Moses Meyer and Peter Cox, completing the top 20 overall, and also the GT3 overall podium and the GT3 Pro podium there of Jatatis, Meyer and Cox for UK Sim Racing Hill. Downforce Races, Chris Kirtland, P21 ahead of Joshua Pratt, with Adrian Kukulis and Eric Rosev completing the run of the GT3 Pro drivers, and Rosev doing well to recover in the end after his early spin, but still I think misfortune there hitting him early on the day and cost him some key points. Nicholas Rice, P25 overall, but for him that's the GT3 AM win for Dirty Rice Racing ahead of Mark Collicott in a close fought battle between them, but it came down to strategy in him, and Mark Collicott just holding off Mark Johnson, with the UK Sim Racing Mansell driver completing the GT3 AM podium of Rice, Collicott and Johnson. But now we wind our way down towards the bottom end of the overall standings, ladies and gentlemen, to show you who had to retire from today's race due to varying circumstances. And well, as we can see there, after Kerry F. Corcoran finishing 8 laps down in the end for Downforce Race in P39, our first retiree, Billy Bob Ray there for Empire Motorsport, 17 laps down. And given that the GTP race finished with 35 laps complete, it will mean that Billy Bob Ray will be classified as a race finisher, as he did just about complete over the half race distance. However, unfortunately, the same could not be said for Daniel Pace, who finished 19 laps down for Old Dudes in Cars, because that will mean, compared to the 31 laps that were accrued, in fact, my apologies, it should be the 30 laps, I do believe, that were accrued for our GT3 winners. It will mean that Pace has finished under half the race distance and therefore will be classified as a non-finish for Old Dudes in Cars. An unfortunate day today, and the same for Auden Hegeseter from Race Lab Esports Moser. Didn't quite work out then the GTP AM class, nor for Chris Constable, Thomas Asphaug, or in the GT Pro class, or Paul Busby in what's been an unfortunate day today for the Effect Simulations driver, ending his race after 2.5 laps after what was the misfortune in qualifying, and Hekongestad as well not able to make it to the grid today for Ignium Motorsport. But now we come onto the individual classes, and as we can see here, starting with the GTP Pro class, Andrew Dawson taking the win there for Effect Simulations Club Sport, head of sister team driver Joshua G. Wilson, a 1-2 for the team today, and then Austin William Campbell a further, 11 seconds behind P3 to round off the podium for Symphony Esports. Joe Newman at P4, quite close behind in the end, but not quite able to sneak his way onto the podium, and indeed his run of podiums continues to continue, with Alex Hill at P5 there for Tiki Simsport Corporate in another day of just keeping it calm, keeping it out of trouble, and picking up a top 5 for the 276. And then Sam Sherwood P6 ahead of Cy Anthony, with Daryl Norcat and Alexander Tremina McCallison completing your top 9 on the lead lap, and then round off the top 10, Ryan Davies 1 lap down there for Tiki Supersport, but still a race finisher, with Paul Busby being the sole retiree. And then come on to the GTP AM category. And as we can see here, John Doble taking the win for Tiki Simsport Corporate by 14.2 seconds in over David Larson and the Symphony Esports driver there, knowing that gap in reality would have been a lot closer if it weren't for errors, but still that's the way it's gone today, and congratulations to John Doble for picking up his first win of the season. Really an absolutely brilliant drive there, and I don't think he's going to quite believe it. Rudy Avitzlin at P3 in the number 87 for Race Lab Esports KTM wasn't quite top 3 pace in terms of qualifying, but top 3 consistency, there's no doubt about it, and bringing on home a strong result here, and I do believe his first podium in the class all season. Aaron Beaver, P4 for UK Sim Racing Belt ahead of Rob Armstrong, with both teams drivers having a difficult day today and struggling on pace, but still able to pick up the pieces where others lost out. Speaking of which, James Foster, unfortunate error finishing P6 in the end for AO Race from his DCW Racing, and Salvatore Guariento 3 laps down in the end. He'll be classified as a finisher, but the Muro.io driver will know it's a long way away from picking up that second win of the season, and he's going to have to wait until next week to try and do so again. Billy Bob Ray there, finishing 16 laps down and therefore classified as a retiree non-finisher for Empire Motorsport, and the same for Alden Hegerset of Race Lab Esports Moser, retiring after what was only the best part of 10 laps complete, and therefore 21 laps down at the finish. We'll then come on to the GT3 Pro category, and as we can see here, it was Holders Jatata who took the win by 6.3 seconds over limit racing, albeit that gap much closer in the second stint, albeit I think the Race Lab Esports Moser driver Anders Meyer, who were backing it off right at the end, all 30 running low on fuel, but still they finished 6.5 seconds apart, and a brilliant battle between the two of them, with Peter Cox finishing a lap down as classified there, given the fact the top 2 managed to get onto one final lap, but the rest did not, given the way the race finished under the guise of Effect Simulations Club Sport Andrew Dawson. But Peter Cox completing the podium for UK Sim Racing Hill ahead of Chris Kirtland, with Joshua Pratt P5, and then Adrian Kukus just missing out in the top 5 today, but chasing Joshua Pratt every step of the way after yielding the position in the mid portion of the second stint, with Eric Rosa P7, ahead of Darren Sharples, Ryan Moles and Casper Brotner, and Ryan Moles' early pit stop not doing him any strong favours today, with some issues later on the race costing the ProTech Motorsport driver a potential top 5 and not a podium, and Casper Brotner rounding off the top 10 for Old Dudes in Cars, ahead of teammate Marvin Cruz at P11 there, best of the rest, and then Kerry F. Kokor in the last of the finishers of the race as classified for Downforce Racing P12, and then we had the 4 retirees of Daniel Pays, Chris Constable, Thomas Aspaug and Hekon Gristad. And then lastly come on to the GT3 AM class. And as we see here, Nicholas Rice taking the win for Dirty Rice Racing ahead of Mark Kolokot for Arrow Race from his DCW Racing. 2.5 seconds the gap between them all the way to the checkered flag. Mark Johnson at P3 there for UK Sim Racing Mansell. And then James Connolly at P4 for UK Sim Racing Hill. Not quite at the pace of his sister team driver, but still able to hold on, with Christopher Bates completing that top 5 at RGV Racing. And Jack Barker just missing out on the top 5 there by 8 tenths, but only gave chase every step of the way. Steinar Sani at P7 ahead of Matt Edmondson, who wasn't quite on the pace today, and the same could be said for Simon Hartley at P9 there, and John Davies completing at the top 10. All of our GT3 AM drivers finishing on the lead lap of their class, and congratulations to all of them for bringing it all together in the end. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the provisional results, and well, that concludes all of our racing here today at the Sebring International Raceway. But fear not, the broadcast is not quite over just yet, and the fact we'll very shortly be cutting away to get ready for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. But just before we do so, if you have been enjoying the racing today and enjoying the season at UK Sim Racing, well, the first thing we do ask is, if you would like to, you're very welcome to subscribe or just follow us on Twitch. It doesn't Cost a penny to follow, albeit subscribe does cost a little bit of money, but at the same time as well, that goes into supporting UK Sim Racing and being all that money being put back into future series at UK Sim Racing. But if you don't want to perhaps do all that on our Twitch channel, perhaps there's something else you'd like to do to support UK Sim Racing. Well, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UK Sim Racing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real world and motorsport companies, which do include but not limited to Swelio Amida Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and Demon Tweaks. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, and that website will appear on screen just now. As well, we haven't quite gone to next time just yet. We apologise for that. That's appeared erroneously. You'll notice on our website there, as it appears in its full splendour, that there is a link in the top right corner of our opening webpage to our official Discord. Now, why would you want to join the official Discord of UK Sim Racing? Well, there's multiple reasons. I can think of two of them straight away. The first one is, and perhaps not too relevant to today, is that if you ever want to be on the grid for a UK Sim Racing series, you need to be part of the Discord. It's a mandatory requirement. But on top of that, if you do join our Discord, well, perhaps more relevant to today is the fact that our affiliates do provide discount codes which are only available on the official UK Sim Racing Discord. And if you use one of those codes as part of one of your purchases, well, it's a win for you because you get a discount on your purchase, and it's a win for the whole of the UK Sim Racing community because every penny we make for an affiliate purchase, it doesn't go into the pockets of the admins, it goes into the community coffers, and well, we use every single penny in order to fund future series, including the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and also the GT3-GTP Multiclass League. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing. And right now, we're going to be taking a brief breather and lead on a long way up to our post-round interviews, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And tonight, we've got 2 interviews available, and we're going to be starting off with one of our GTP Pro class drivers, none other than TT Sport Corp's Alex Hill in the 276, who today, once again, showed the adage of consistency is key, going from P6 in qualifying to P5 as his finishing position in the race, and we'll be hearing the story there from him, and negotiated traffic, which he found himself right at the forefront of doing so time and time again, after which we'll then be going to our GT3 Pro winner, and none other than Holders Jatatas, the number 56 driver from Over Limit Racing, who absolutely delivered in qualifying and also in the race, but was made to push every step of the way. And well, his story is definitely one you're not going to want to miss. But without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to have joining me in the interview room now, none other than Alex Hill. And as he joins me, good evening to you, Alex. And well, what a night of racing it was for yourself at the Sebring International Raceway. A P6 in qualifying, a P5 in the race, and by looks of things, every step of the way, it was all about consistency being key to see you pick up another top 5, something you're making a regular habit of doing so over the course of this season.
Yeah, it's wasn't entirely without incident, but it's sort of like I say, getting consistently there, making sure not to make any daft errors, sort of on there. So you just sort of keeping it smooth and keeping the car undamaged was key points. Is always the key points at Sebring.
Oh, most definitely. And like you say, Sebring in one of those circuits where you've got to try and stay out of trouble as much as possible. But before we come on to dealing with the potential trouble in the multi-class racing aspect, let's dial things back to qualifying. We saw in qualifying there was a bit of a runaway session for Andrew Dawson at the front of the field, but you yourself regularly contesting, I should say, a top 5 qualifying position, but not quite able to deliver it versus the likes of, say, Joe Newman and also Cy Anthony.
Yeah, my qualifying was about half a second off my optimal for the session, so I had plenty still on the table and just wasn't able to connect it all in one go. Um, it was a little bit frustrating actually. Sort of like my best lap was the last lap, but I had another half second on the table, which I just didn't get, and that would have put me up several positions if I'd got that.
Indeed, unfortunate, just missing out on P5 by the best part of what was 4.5 hundredths in the end as we double check the timing data. And if you were able to improve by the multiple attempts that you mentioned there, would have seen you potentially even be on the second row ahead of Joe Newman. And I have to ask, when going around this circuit a full attack, obviously you have the contrasting road surfaces of the asphalt and the concrete. How does it feel with regards to, from a driving perspective, these GTP cars are so low to the ground, the suspensions are so stiff. I mean, it must grate on your hands and your feet after a while, bouncing over the road surface.
Well, you do feel a lot of the bumps at Sebring, well, almost all the bumps at Sebring, especially there are a few corners you have to be very careful on the braking with the GTPs, especially if no ABS to save you should you get it incorrect. And there's a few corners where if you do get it wrong, you will end up in a wall as well. So it can be a little unforgiving if you if you're not getting it right. But there definitely is a flow to it. You just have to sort of get used to it and sort of appreciate that. You know, sometimes it's better to brake a little bit earlier and not have to brake as hard than take that risk.
Oh, goodness me. And well, with those difficulties and avoiding risk, it looked as though avoiding risk was your mantra at the start of this race. We saw a relatively calm and collected start from yourself, and the opening stage of the race, seeing yourself and sister team driver Ryan Davies running nose to tail. And it looked as though the whole opening stint was going to be focused around that. I suspect there might have been some fuel saving going on.
There was a lot of fuel saving going on, sort of on there. Ryan was discussing it with me because he seemed to think it would be better if went back ahead, and he wanted, I think, to be behind to fuel save. But with Sam Congreve right behind us, there was never going to be a convenient point to make that change. So in the end, we just stuck with it and went from there. Unfortunately, Ryan did have a small accident under braking into the hairpin, which meant that was the end of my fuel saving ability there because I had to make sure Sam stayed behind. But yes, there was a lot of fuel saving going on. I think if Ryan hadn't done that, I possibly would have gone a lap further. But I've got a feeling that Andy Dawson was so far ahead, I probably wouldn't have got round before he was out of the pits again at that point. So it would have been nice to steal a lap in the lead off him, but didn't happen, unfortunately.
Well, indeed, we were wondering whether you might be able to steal a lap away, but like you say, Dawson's gap was such that it did look as though he would eventually come back out ahead either way. But still, a good piece of strategy being worked on by yourself, and as a result, it seemed to keep you out of the potential battle with, say, the likes and what was Sam Sherwood and also Cy Anthony, with both drivers there taking different approaches to strategy and really trying to push, and Cy Anthony going for quite an early pit stop. I have to ask from your perspective though, what made you decide to go as deep as possible in the race, and was there the concern about the traffic around here? Because we've seen time and time again over the course of the race, and it only takes 1 or 2 GT3s to fall, say it turns 3 through to 5, alternatively on the run through Tower Corner at 13, and it completely scuppers an entire lap.
Well, yeah, there's several elements of it. I think the Acura especially does not is performs very, very well on it on much lower fuel. It definitely becomes alive in the last couple of laps within the stint. So keeping it out there is definitely the ideal strategy for it. And as you say as well, like it just isn't going to be any benefit, I feel, to going in earlier. You're just sort of on those tyres with a heavier tank for longer. So, in my opinion, I think I know Sai was going for it, but if I was in his position, I definitely would have stayed out the front and then tried to hold on.
Appreciate the insight there, and I think if Sai's listening right now, he might be furiously taking a few notes in his rivalry with yourself. But still, after the pit stop, emerging back out in P5, and it looked as though the gap was going to stay quite comfortably between yourself and Sam Sherwood all the way to the end. And in return, the pursuit of Joe Newman, it seems to be something which it was always going to be a bit of a foregone conclusion, perhaps. But I have to ask, given the P5 finishing in, was that what you were targeting, or did you feel perhaps there was a little bit more on the table?
I think if I'd been able to hold on my position at the start, I might have been able to go for that position potentially, but you just don't know what would have happened on there. Sort of, there's no way of predicting what would or wouldn't have happened if I'd held that there. It's entirely possible it would have still ended up in exactly the same place. But yeah, when I saw I was a little surprised actually at how close he was after coming out of the stops. I think he took his side tyres in the pit stop, which would have meant he had a much longer stop than I did. Um, but I don't think I was actually going to. It was holding position. It wasn't really getting closer. So I sort of calmed it down near the end, as there was no reason to put myself at risk.
I see, and well, we can definitely confirm, like you say, that observation of a much longer pit stop for Joe Newman being 25.6 seconds stationary to your own 15.8. And I have to ask now, looking at the wider picture of the championship, you've made a habit of really trying to work some great bits of strategy into your championship campaign in the GTP Pro class. In a week's time, we make our way to Monza for round number 7, a circuit that's normally seen as being a more outright charge with its long straights and heavy braking zones. What can we expect from yourself in Italy?
Well, Monza's always going to be an interesting circuit for on there. It's definitely, I think, one where traffic management is going to be key because the GTPs are going to want to come from a very long way back into some of these corners. So it's just going to be a case of making sure to manage that traffic and judge when we need to lift a little bit and when we can sort of go for that move up the inside. And it's going to have to be some work done from both the GTPs and the GT3s to make sure that no one is upset at the end of it. So it's just going to require a little bit of patience. I've not done any laps for practice yet. We'll just have to see how it goes, and hopefully the Acura should do well enough. But the Cadillacs have looked very strong all season, so we'll just have to see on that one.
Oh, most definitely. We look forward to seeing what you're able to bring to the table in the TT Sim Sport Corporate Acura as of the next round. And just a quick comment on the Teams Championship going into next round and the fact the provisional results from today do mean that TT Sim Sport Corporate right now right in the thick end of the battle for the lead. I believe it's something along the lines of only about 20 points separating the top 5, and TT Sim Sport Corporate find themselves in P4. I mean, it may not be the most glorified in terms of results for the team, but you guys are definitely right now showing that consistency is keeping you right up there.
Well, I was looking at the spreadsheet for the team, and it actually I think it's an error on the spreadsheet, and we've got 2 points more than what is showing as P3. So I may have misread it wrong. I was tired when I was looking at that, but um, in regards to that, it's still all to play for in that respect, with a few rounds to go. So we just if everybody shows up, it could get very interesting.
Oh, indeed, we definitely will be interested in a week's time. We look forward to seeing what you're able to bring to the table, Alex. But just before we do let you go, as always, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, well, once again, thank you very much for the excellent broadcast, and thank you very much from everyone in the team and everyone competing in the race for the excellent racing.
Well, Alex, it's been an absolute blast to have you join me in the interview room. As always, congratulations on another great drive to P5. Indeed, we can ruminate on what could have been in that battle for P4, but still a deserved top 5, and we look forward to plenty more at Monza in a week's time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you very much.
So hearing there from Alex Hill from Tiki Simsport Corpa, and quite a good set of insights there with regards to his approach to Sebring today. Starting off with qualifying there, in the fact continually getting faster over the course of the qualifying session, and his final lap being a notable improvement compared to previous laps, but feeling as though there were still multiple attempts on the table that could have enabled him to be on the second row of the grid. And well, having to deal with all the bumps in the road, particularly those concrete slabs on the old airfield surfaces, and talking about the fact there that you really do feel it through the steering wheel, and therefore you've got to be ready for those forces on the attack laps, but also when you're going into the race. And speaking of which, an interesting dilemma at the start of the race, losing multiple places and falling behind teammate Ryan Davies, and in the end tucking in behind and trying to fuel save as much as possible. And there will be the big question of what if Davies had not had that incident? Could we have seen Hill potentially stay behind a little bit longer and fuel save further and go the longest of anybody? And well, how much would that gain him in terms of race time? That would be the question. Could it have got him ahead of Joe Newman perhaps, and then see him hold track position to the very end? All big questions, but I can tell you one thing is for certain, and that is Alex Hill is making himself known for his ability to make the Acura go long into each and every stint, but on top of that as well, having a way to make top 5s come out of nowhere. And again today, a P6 start, a converted P5 finish, and a superb drive all the way through, and that's exactly what the Tiki Simsport Corporate driver knows how to do best. And at Monza, well, it definitely is going to be an interesting challenge, but I wouldn't put it past it to be able to make it happen once again, or potentially even find his way onto the podium. So now coming on to our second interview, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard from our GTP Pro driver. Now we're going to be hearing from our GT3 Pro winner, and that will be Herodas Jotatis, who gets ready to join me in the interview room very shortly. And well, it's going to be quite a different story, I think, here, Herodas, in the fact that being made to push every step of the way from lights out to checkered flag, whether it was qualifying or the race. And well, now as he gets set to join me in the interview room, we'll get to hear his full story and more. And in fact, he does join me now. And good evening to you, Herodas. And what a race for yourself at Sebring. I mean, you were pushed every step of the way by your rivals, with Anders Meyer keeping you honest all the way to checker flag. And it doesn't just come down to the race. Qualifying as well saw you take pole position by one of the smallest margins this season. I mean, you must have been absolutely knackered at the end of the race.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, I was. The one thing that rescued me, made it helped me made this happen, was the huge amount of practice that I was able to put in during the week. Both during the qualification laps and race laps, it helped me to stay consistent and fast. But still, Anders was pushing me, as you said, all the way through.
Oh, indeed, and all that practice making perfect, no doubt about it. And well, let's talk a little bit about qualifying. Taking pole position in the end by 3 attempts. I mean, 3 attempts sounds like a lot, but we've seen you take pole position in previous rounds by almost up to half a second. The Sebring circuit, a very rough circuit, but how did it feel in the Porsche 992 when you had to go full attack?
Coming from the last round that I skipped, right, Le Mans, that I actually skipped it because I couldn't even handle this car on that track. So props to all the guys that managed to finish in the Porsche. Comparing that to this is like I can't even compare it because this is lovely. This combo is perfect. I love this track in just as a track, and this car is also wonderful. But this combination is wow, something else. I loved every lap that I was doing in it.
Oh, indeed, and that love for the lap and the combination definitely shining through in the qualifying session to take that pole position ahead of Racing Lab Esports' Anders Myra. And then going into the race, we saw you on the race start really time it well. You delayed the run in terms of when you go green flag racing. I presume that was all part of the plan to try and just make it so that everybody was caught out at the start.
So delaying, kind of. I had these marks on the concrete wall on the left that I've set as my starting marker, and I did some practice earlier because in the one of the last rounds in Fuji where I had pole, I did not have this marker, and I had a great getaway, but when I had no idea where I was supposed to brake, and I braked too early and actually lost position in the first corner. So to avoid that, I had these markers on the wall, and prepared my start as well, just so I don't lose position, and yeah, it worked out perfectly.
Oh, I love the preparation you put into this. It really shows the side of a professional at taking every key bit of preparation out and making sure that you know exactly how to get things right. And well, what a way to start the race. But as the race went on, you're holding the lead there, but we saw for at least the opening 15 minutes, the top 9 in the GT3 Pro class separated by 6 seconds. I mean, from your perspective, did you expect the field to be that close behind you all the way through the opening stint, or was there quite a lot of fuel saving going on, perhaps in tyre management as well?
No, honestly, I was just pushing as much as I could. And to be even more honest, I didn't care about the rest of the field. I was just looking how far back, the Anders was. And the first lap, he was staying very, very, very close. And, I thought that, oh, I was in trouble. He will be within a half a second for the all of the race. But when luckily for me, he actually did a mistake on the last corner of the first lap that gave me around like a second and a half to work with. And I managed to keep that gap for like the mentioned first 15 minutes. So was happy with that, but was still very intense. I felt every imperfect corner, not even like a mistake, but I felt every imperfect corner translated to like a tenth to Anders, an advantage. So yeah, it was very intense.
Oh, indeed, and I think everyone tuning in can really believe that from all the pictures we saw and the pictures we continue to see here in the additional replay footage. Now, coming on to the strategy, I have to ask, you chose to pick quite around the midpoint of the race. We saw Anders Murray go significantly longer. Was this all part of the plan, or was this a bit of an unexpected pit stop or an adjustment to the strategy?
So I went as long as I just went as long as fuel allowed me to, and Anders went one lap further. So I'm not sure if it's the car or he was saving a little bit. I think he was probably saving a little bit. But yeah, was pushing. Plan was to push all through the race, and I did that before the pits and after the pits as well. That meant that my pit stop was a little bit longer, and that almost cost me.
Oh, indeed. And on that brilliant moment where we saw you come on through to retake the lead, but Anders Mara came out the pit immediately behind you. I mean, it was close, and we saw the two of you run nose to tail for the best part of 3 or 4 laps before the gap started to open up slightly. Firstly, did you expect it to be that close going into the second stint? And if not, how did you start to sort of realign yourself in terms of thinking, okay, I haven't got an advantage, I've got to try and make this advantage count?
Right. So before my pits, I think I had like 3 seconds advantage. At that point, I was not expecting it to be close. But when my in lap was a little bit slow, not little, like by almost a second slower because I ran into some lap traffic. And then also when I pitted and saw that, oh, Anders is going for one more, then I knew that I might I might be in some trouble. And yeah, so my outlap luckily was great. But even though coming in, on the last corner, I see that he is almost leaving the pits, and I'm like, oh, I want to close my eyes. I don't want to see him ahead of me.
Oh, goodness me. Well, I can definitely appreciate how you must have felt in the heat of that moment. But as that second stint went on, particularly in the closing 10 minutes, it looked as though you were starting to gain the upper hand little by little, and every attempt being pivotal, with the gap in the end stabilising at around 3 seconds. And I have to ask, on the final couple of laps, were you able to take your foot off the gas at all, or was it literally 100% to the line?
So the race actually went one lap more than I expected, and like I had just enough fuel, just enough fuel. So during the 2 last laps, I started lifting just a little bit, just to make sure that I have enough. But at that point, I knew that if I'm, just able to finish the race, and he, his pit stop was shorter, then he must be in way much more trouble than I am. And yeah, he was. He had to lift at the end of the last lap, and at that point, it was over.
Oh, indeed, we could see that towards the end where the fuel situation seemed to go in your favour, with Anders Mara having to back off completely on the final lap and taking your second win of the season, your first, of course, being in round number 2 at Fuji. It now places you a sizable, provisionally that is, 19 points clear of your rivals, with 2 drop scores being accounted for. So your championship leader, we've still got another 4 rounds to go, and in a week's time, it's the Monza Grand Prix circuit. How are you feeling going to Italy?
We had a similar chat last time when we chatted, and as I said, then still, yeah, these long straight tracks I don't like in general, and this car also doesn't like. So uh, I'll try to like put in a good effort and try for a good result, but I'm not really expecting for one. Similarly, how it happened in Spa, where I was not contending at all. And looking forward, similar thing might happen in Daytona as well. But in Red Bull and the last round, Silverstone, I think I will be competitive. So I think it's all good. It's looking good.
I'm liking the optimism there. Things are feeling good, as you say, and well, may the good luck continue to come your way, Heroldus. But still, we look forward to seeing what happens in a week's time in Italy. But until then, one last question for yourself, as always. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
So yeah, thank you, Paul, as always. Brilliant broadcast. Thanks for all the UKSR organization, and the competitors as well. And just a quick shout out to our team's Twitch and YouTube channels at Over the Limit. You can find, I often broadcast my races as well, and on YouTube you can find some recaps of the races. So yeah, you can check it out.
Well, definitely a recommendation there to check out the onboard for yourself. I can imagine that many of your rivals might be trying to get a bit of a look at that to see what you're doing that puts you one step ahead. But with that, Haroldus, it's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you join me in the interview room. Congratulations on picking up your second winning class of the season and having to work incredibly hard to get the job done. But you've made it happen. You're championship leader with 4 rounds to go. Monza awaits you, and we wish you all the best luck in your preparations. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. Good night.
So hearing there from the GT3 Pro winner of Haroldus Jotatas in the 56 from Over Limit Racing, and what a night it has been for him, pushed to the limit every step of the way. But interesting to hear his thoughts there, talking about the fact of really enjoying this combination of Sebring and the GT3, and that's showing through in qualifying with that 3/10 of a second advantage to take him to pole position, and everything seemed to be hooked up. But then going from qualifying into the race, I love the pinpoint precision with which he's practiced for this round, and the fact taking it as a working assumption that he would be on pole, knowing exactly which markers he would use to start his race at, and then understand what markers would be in place for breaking into turn 1, so that way he doesn't get caught out by the varying speeds of his start point versus when going into turn 1 at full speed on the subsequent lap. And it's that precision which enabled him to hold on to lead for the opening 3 corners. But still, and being transparent, being pushed even in that first stint when we saw the top 9 separated by only 6 seconds 15 minutes in, that was not because everyone was necessarily fuel saving, but because he was being pushed to 100% and everybody behind keeping him honest. And in the end, even after the pit stop, a slightly longer pit stop, given the fact no fuel saving had really gone in, and that almost cost him track position, but he was out ahead just about. And then in the closing stages, the chase for the win went the way of Haroldus, with Anders Murray running low on fuel and had to do some fuel saving. And with that extra lap on top that was unexpected for both of the drivers, we're all played into the hands of the Over Limit Racing driver just about. But still fancying his chances in the remaining 4 rounds. Perhaps not at Monza necessarily, but definitely feeling a bit more confident at Silverstone and the Red Bull Ring. So next week might be a little bit more damage limitation, but as championship leader, he's got to be feeling confident now with 4 rounds to go and a sizable advantage, which we'll come on to shortly, that things are starting to look up. And well, the long may they continue to go upwards for the favourite as he makes his way into round number 7. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our interviews for today. And you've heard from 2 of our drivers as of this broadcast. And you heard firstly from Alex Hill from Tiki Simsport Corpa in the GTP Pro category. And you also heard from our GT3 Pro winner from Over Limit Racing of Haroldus Jotatas. Congratulations to both of them on their great performances today at the Sebring International Raceway Circuit. And we look forward to seeing more from them in a week's time at Monza. But now, ladies and gentlemen, of course, drum roll please. It's time for us to give you an update on the provisional standings going into round number 7, and here they are. We start off with the GTP Pro standings, keeping in mind, of course, the shooting decisions from round number 6 have yet to be concluded. And as we can see, it is Austin William Campbell who leads the way by 4 points over Joshua G. Wilson. We should also remind you that now both drop scores of the season are being accounted for, so therefore, out of the 6 scores available, only 4 are being accounted, the 4 best scores, and this will continue to fluctuate over the remainder of the season, with the last round number 10 being undroppable at Silverstone. But it's Austin William Campbell holds a very narrow lead over Joshua Wilson, with the Effect Simulations driver giving pursuit and only 1 point clear in return of Cy Anthony. And we are really starting to see this strange contrast between drivers who are able to have standout performances but don't quite have the consistent set of performances, such as being, say, Joshua Wilson, if we put him in that category, albeit his consistency over the last couple of rounds really would demonstrate he's now moving into that mix of strong standout performances and consistency together. And in the consistency of drivers such as Cy Anthony, and putting him again in P3 there. But after the top 3, it's Alex Hill in P4 for Tiki Simsport Corpa, who again, that consistency factor, those top 5 finishes on a regular basis, keeping him P4 ahead of Paul Busby, who that unfortunate retirement cost him massively today, and meaning wasn't able to make it necessarily 3 wins this season. And indeed, the Effect Simulations driver, knowing there's been a huge set of points missed, and therefore that's going to be a drop score in his pocket. Ben Cullen at P6, meanwhile, not on the grid today for Effect Simulations, taking his second drop score of the season, ahead of Ryan Davies, with Alexander Truman-McCallson P8 and only behind based on result countback versus Davies, and then Sam Sherwood and Joe Newman completing your top 10. Darryl Norket, P11, best the rest of the Racing Forces try home to earn those 26 points the hard way today, but still not the points he necessarily wanted, knowing that qualifying ban had kept him at bay for the majority of the day. And then Andy Dawson now up to P12 for his first win on the board. He's only participated in 2 rounds so far, so therefore he's not in the hunt for the championship necessarily, but he'll definitely be in the hunt for a top 10 as a minimum, if not a top 5 by the end of the season, if he can keep the results coming his way. And then to round off the standings, Jonathan Hitchin P13 ahead of Alistair Kirk and Matt Strand P15 there for Racing Lab Esports Car X. We then come on to the GTP AM standings. And as we can see here, the complexion is rather similar in the fact we do have a championship leader and they do have a relatively slender margin, albeit a little bit greater, but it is David Larson who moves into lead now for Symphony Esports there on 144 points, ahead of Salvatore Guariento with the Mural.io driver, knowing that the missed win today and the missed opportunity to make it back-to-back wins means that he falls to P2 and not the lead which he'd like to be in. But still, Larson gaining the bonus points there after that second place finish. Now as a missed win, and now it is a leading opportunity here, and he'll be looking for the win at Monza ahead of Guariento with Rudy Avitsland. Another third place, moving him into that P3 position for Race Lab Esports KTM, but only 1 point behind Guariento and only 4 clear of Rob Armstrong, with the UK Sim Racing at Bell Drive continue to push on, albeit today it was a difficult one, but he's salvaging a good result out of it, but it will be a drop score for Armstrong ahead of David Rolliston. And the Tiger Racing Team driver being absent from the grid, but still the 262 driver will be back next week, I'm sure, and ready to push on there and charge his way back into the top 3. Behind Rudderston by a single point, Billy Bob Ray with an unfortunate end to his race, still getting some key points on the board for Empire Motorsport, but not the way he wanted it to go. And Aaron Beaver still getting some good points on the board for UK Sim Racing Bell, despite the car not being on the pace today. And that moves him into P7 on 123 points, 13 ahead of John Doble, whose win today leapfrogs his campaign back into top gear for Tiki Sim Sport Corp ahead of Alden Hegeseta and Brandon Hay, who wasn't on the grid for this round. Outside the top 10, Ollie Penny for DY13 racing at P11 ahead of Richard Jones, and then James Foster on his debut, getting 30 points off to a good start for AI Racing, his DCW Racing, but knowing a podium could have been on the cards, but I'm sure we'll see plenty more from him at Monza. And then Paul Joseph Cliff P14 there rounds off the standings for Olympus Esports. We'll then come on to the GT3 Pro category. And as we can see here, Herodes Chatatas leads the way by 19 points provisionally for Over Limit Racing ahead of Hekon Gristad for Ignium Motorsport. And the Ferrari 296 GT3 driver not on the grid today. This being his second drop score round, and therefore every round onwards will be critical for Gristad to try and close down Chatatas' lead. Adrian Kukulis a further 9 points behind the short competition esports driver. If he's not on the podium, he's still picking up great results there, and Kukulis just missing out on the top 5 today, but not missing out on a great opportunity to hold on to a top 3 spot. 6 points clear of Peter Cox for UK Sim Racing Hill, with a further point to Eric Rosev, and I think Rosev will be absolutely fuming after that early instant through turn number 5 has cost him dear, and the number 1 driver doing well to recover, but knowing that recovery perhaps was not enough in order to make sure he'd stay in the top 3, and he's still got some work to do. Ryan Moles P6 for Protect Motorsport ahead of Josh Pratt, only based on result countback, with a Tiki Sim Sport driver levelling the playing field there, and Moles knowing that today it was not to be his day, particularly after, and we can confirm, ladies and gentlemen, his P9 finish in the end was due to the fact he didn't quite manage to finish off 7, a slowdown penalty before he crossed the start-finish line to take the checker flag, and therefore Moles being denoted to a P9 finish right at the end. And behind Joshua Pratt is Chris Kirtland, P8 there for Downforce Racing, ahead of Anders Meyer, whose result in P2 today puts him back into the top 10 at 109 points, only 1 clear of Aaron Vergalway, who takes his second drop score of the season, and we look forward to seeing the short competition esports driver on the grid in Monza. Old Dudes in Cars, Castle Rotner, P11 ahead of Darren Sharples, with the gap between the terms standing at 12 points, but only 4 to Marvin Cruz further behind in Old Dudes in Cars is in P13. And then Chris Constable and Daniel Page round off your top 15, with Racing Lab Esports Car X Thomas Aspal P16 after that unfortunate retirement today, ahead of Team Year 1s at Rhys Saunders. And then to complete the top 20, Kerry Kokorin, John Watt and Martin Tillim. And then last but not least, P21, John Maloney. And then coming on to our last Drivers' Championship standing here, which is the GT3 AM standings, we can see it's Mark Collicott who continues to lead the way by 10 points for AO Racing DCW Racing over Lawrence Marsh, with Downforce Racing driver not in attendance today and losing the lead of the championship, and Collicott's second place finish. A great result still, and it means that championship momentum firmly on his side. However, Mark Johnson, with what was a great drive to the podium, his first podium of the season, taking the P3 spot now for UK Sim Racing Mansell, free clear of Matt Edmondson for UK Sim Racing Hill, and Edmondson's championship campaign starting to come to a bit of a stumble here in terms of momentum, and he'll have 4 rounds to try and turn things around. Now, he is still a contender for the championship crown, but he needs to start getting the results back on side. Nicholas Rice, meanwhile, the results coming his way. The Dirty Rice Racing Drive bringing home the win today with a bonus point as well. And it's a huge result there to bring him back into the top 5. 1 point ahead of James Connolly. Within a further point to Steiner, Sunny and Peace. And with the Racing Lab Esports Car X driver just not quite on the pace today in the BMW M4. Thomas Barjak, John Davis, and Cy Hartley complete your top 10, with Satinder Deans at P11 best the rest. They're 2 points outside the top 10, but 6 clear of Andy Skinner. And then Jack Barker moves to P13 with another reasonable result, ahead of Chris Bates for RGV Racing. A little bit of a rivalry between these two, 6 points between them, and I think they're both targeting the top 10 and also looking to finish ahead of one another when all is said and done, with Shaminder Deans at P15 ahead of Niall Killing. And then we have Oyvind Breivik, Neil Smith, and BJ Alvarez completing at the championship standings. And then lastly, we come onto the Teams Championship. As always, and as we can see here, looking at our top 20, well, the totals are not quite right at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, but I have been reliably informed that the positioning of the teams is accurate, and it is Symphony Esports who lead the way by a minor margin ahead of Effect Simulations. And while Symphony Esports may not be taking their headlines when it comes to race wins, they are showing the consistency at the top of the field is rewarding them nicely. With Effect Simulations right now just looking to get a more consistent stream of points on the board in order to try and snatch that championship lead. UK Sim Racing Hill P3, meanwhile, they hold on in the fight, batting with Tiki Sim Sport Corpa and UK Sim Racing Mansell not too much further behind. Next, Racing Lab Esports Moza in P6, who've got UK Sim Racing Bell close on their heels, with Racing Lab Esports KTM, Downforce Racing and Tiki Sim Sport complete in the top 10. Empire Motorsport P11, best of the rest, I should say, head of Shore Competition Esports, and then Protect Motorsport, Racing Lab Esports CarX, and Old Dudes and Cars complete your top 15, with Tiki Sim Sport Tire P16 ahead of Mural.io, and it's AI Racing Race DCW Racing ahead of Overlimit Racing, and Ignium Motorsport complete your top 20. P21 looking to break the way back into the top 20 next time out, Dirty Rice Racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid for a future rendition of the GT3-GTP Multiclass League, or perhaps you want to know about some of our other series available at UK Sim Racing, or perhaps you just want to become part of the community, a very friendly community on the platform of iRacing, well, to do all that and plenty more, we recommend you firstly check out our official website, which you did see appear on screen today in the broadcast much earlier on, and that's at uksimracing.co.uk, and then you can find out all the relevant information about our community. But perhaps you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, then the best place to go to is our official Twitter. That's twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can find out all that information, plus also how to get to our Discord. But on top of that as well, you can stay up to date with the latest trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. And we'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include, firstly, Swelly Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swelly Almeida's Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing drive to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swelly Almeida has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swelly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweets, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweets can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company is trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but are not limited to Amazon Alexa, Amazon Fire TV, and Amazon Prime. And lastly, SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? To put it simply, affordable, quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights on the competitive edge. They make high-quality coaching accessible to all at affordable costs tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more. They offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Do visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. And well, ladies and gentlemen, the pace of the championship continues to accelerate. For next time, round number 7 awaits us on Sunday the 5th of November, and it will all be live from circuit side at the Italian circuit of the Monza Grand Prix. And who will be coming out on top in what is expected to be a fiery round of racing where slipstream is pivotal and the ability to be ballsy on the brakes is just going to be as key. We'll have to wait out and find just then on Sunday the 5th of November. Save the date in your calendar because we'll be there. But until then, we've been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.